to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Dominic, on the brink of elimination, the Milwaukee Brewers broke my heart yesterday. But hopefully at least we get our audience back, our full contingent of Devil's Advocates listeners. Welcome back, all you Brewers fans. Tomorrow night it will only be the gubernatorial, senatorial, and first congressional debates that get preempted by a baseball game.
What are you going to watch, Crudy?
I'll be watching baseball, man.
Come on, aren't you a political junkie? Aren't you supposed to watch the politics?
I will get around. Hell, we might even rebroadcast. Maybe on a sleepy Sunday afternoon, we'll play out the debates right here on Real Resistance Radio, Dom. But no, I'll be watching Brewers.
Go Crew.
I'm sorry, man. No doubt.
No apologies.
I mean, otherwise,
necessary.
I'd be so divided, Dominic. Which debate to watch? Of course, I think I'd have to go the gubernatorial direction.
Wow, yeah, man. Absolutely, that's the one to watch.
Well, that's on C-SPAN for all you junkies that don't like the Brewers. Both of you that'll be watching the C-SPAN. There might be more people outside the state of Wisconsin watching that debate live than will see that debate happen on the C-SPAN on Friday night, because the Brewers will be playing the Los Angeles Dodgers, and that will be an elimination game. I hope not, Tom. But, you know, it could be all over but the crying.
For the Brewers or for Scott Walker?
Well, Scott Walker, if you believe, Scott Walker's trailing, and I guess it depends on who you believe. If you believe the Marquette University Law School polling, the only poll I've seen since the primary in August, he's up by a very narrow margin, 1.47. You believe all the other polling we've seen so far, Dom, Scott Walker's, you know, he's in a real position where he could lose, and that would make no one happier than I, Dom.
I don't know. I'd be pretty happy about that as well, Michael. Scott Walker must lose.
Scott Walker must lose. From your lips to God's ears. And I know you're an atheist, Don, but you should say a little prayer every night. Scott Walker
just because
must lose, God.
I might. If I pay you to say some prayers for me, Crudy, will you?
Well, it depends on if the Brewers are on or not. Maybe after the game. I am on the ticket. Trump seeks to make the election about him, even if some don't want it to be. Dom, let's start today with the Washington Post. Ashley Parker. We talked yesterday. Breaking news during this big show. Some might have missed it. Might have been tuning into the Brewers. But Donald Trump coming to the great state of Wisconsin. Going to be in an aircraft hangar in Mosedy, Dom. Next Wednesday. That event starts at 3, doors open at like 3:30. And that rally... Crazy storm. I don't know what you want to call it, Dom.
The mob party. You know, they're going to be talking lock her up, Crudy. They're going to be talking about the crooked media. And you're going to drag my ass all the way up there just to hear the same old, same old.
Well, we could do live profane commentary, Dom, non-FCC regulated.
Can we say horse face on the radio?
We could do our normalized Devil's Advocates radio show between 3 and 6. We'll work out the details. But then when the actual rallifying starts, the speechifying, well, Dom, I think we turn the radio off and we turn the live stream on, and you and I give live over-the-top commentary. And for those that, you know, want to hear the presidential speech live, good luck finding it. I'm not sure who will be in attendance at the Mosedy aircraft hangar. I mean, is CNN going to come and carry this rally live? I suspect not. So it's Fox News or nowhere, Dom, except right here on the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio. But if you're looking for a clean Trump speech, you know, all the locker-ups and build at walls, and, you know, if you're looking for it without any sort of commentary or pundit interruption, please tune somewhere else, because I have every expectation that we'll stomp all over this man's speech. We're going to give our own commentary. We'll give you a sense of the crowd, you know, how many locker-ups there are and how many, I don't know, I hate Hillary's. I mean, that seems to be the only unifying sentiment at a Donald Trump rallies. They sure don't like them much. Hillary Clinton. Dom, Bernie Sanders also coming to town on Monday. I think we mentioned we will broadcast that event live right here on Real Resistance Radio. Now, Bernie's coming to town to rally for the good team, as I perceive it. That's Tony Evers, that's Tammy Baldwin, that's Mandela Barnes, and that is Randy Bryce. And Randy Bryce and Brian Stahel, they're kind of Scrooged all the way around on their first congressional debate, because between the Brewers and the two other debates, nobody's watching that one. And then Leah Vukmer, and I get a bone to pick today with Leah Vukmer and pre-existing conditions. And this whole tale she tells, and of course Scott Walker tells a very similar tale. Hell, he's out there on righty whitey talk radio all over the dial today, Dom, spinning his fiction about pre-existing conditions. Well, I'm going to bring it home with the real story in the 4 o'clock hour, Dom. We're going to talk about the for real of pre-existing conditions. And there was a story pushed out last night by the Democratic Party of the state of Wisconsin. And I texted our pal Martha Lanning. I said, I don't know if you know Martha, but my kid was the poster child talking specifically about the autism mandate and Leah Vukmer's opposition to insurance companies providing care for kids with autism. So we'll get to that topic in the 4 o'clock hour. But for all you debaters on Friday night, you're Scrooged. Everyone's watching the Brewers. We know how it goes.
We'll come back, Crudy. Maybe we'll check out some recorded video of it. Maybe read the transcripts.
Dom, there is. You're not going to read the transcripts. Who are you kidding, man? Maybe you'll listen to the sound bites on Monday's show if we haven't moved on, to bigger and better things like a Birdie rally by then. But let's get to the Ashley Parker piece at the Post. This does have a Wisconsin angle. Listen closely, people. President Trump is not on the ballot this November. He's not an option in the voting booth or a current candidate for any office. But that hasn't stopped the president and some in his orbit from making an unmistakable pitch for Trump 2018, even as he says he won't take the blame if Republicans lose in November.
Right.
I'm not on the ticket, but I am on the ticket.
It's not my fault.
Because this is also a referendum about me. Trump boomed this month at a rally in South Haven, Mississippi. I want you to vote. Pretend I'm on the ballot. He said much the same in West Virginia, where he's promoting the state's GOP Senate nominee. A vote for Morrissey is a vote for me, Trump said, in a line that Morrissey's campaign repurposed in a new ad. And Trump's namesake son, Don Jr., Fredo, Dom, has been making a similar appeal, warning that while voters may not even know their local congressman, they intuitively understand that the Trump name is on the ballot. The reality for them, Trump is on the ticket in 2018, Trump Jr. said during a recent campaign swing in Texas. Midterm elections are, by some degree, referendums on a president and a party in power. But through force of personality and bold pronouncements, Trump has deliberately placed himself at the center of the November elections, explicitly telling voters to imagine they're casting a ballot for him rather than their local representative. And this surprises us how, joked Jennifer Duffy, senior editor at Cook Political Report. Bill Stephen, the White House political director, said the strategy is an acknowledgement that Trump's policies are already on the ballot this November, so he might as well use his personal appeal to try to move the Trump coalition to vote for Republican candidates who will support his agenda if elected. I'm going to have you take over in a minute, but I'll give you a quote first. He's the leader of the party, and he's willing to put his own political capital on the line for the benefit of the party. Stephen said the president knows how to fire up his base. He knows the DNA of his voters, and he claims to know the DNA of Elizabeth Warren as well.
Oh, God.
And that's what he's responding to.
Crudy, the risk is, however, in that in energizing his base, Trump could also fire up the Democratic side while alienating moderate suburban voters who may be looking to Congress to serve as a check on the president. The fatal flaw in Trump's strategy, said Guy Cecil, chairman of Priorities USA, a Democratic super PAC, is that one, it motivates our side, and two, it makes the assumption that all the previous Trump voters are still voting Republican, which, especially in the House and governor races, we see is not the case. Trump advisors have repeatedly told the president that simply touting his accomplishments will not drive midterm turnout, and that he needs to continue to position himself as the counterweight to a liberal Democratic mob threatening his achievements, people close to him said. They have also stressed that the unlikely coalition of voters who helped lift him to victory in 2016 may not be as motivated to vote in off-year elections, especially for Republicans who don't share his unconventional style. The president, meanwhile, has told White House aides that his supporters won't come out to the polls if they don't believe the elections matter to him, two advisors added. He's basically internalized the message that I'm so important that people aren't going to go out and vote unless it's all about me, said a former White House aide speaking on the condition of anonymity to share candid conversations. Trump has been asking advisors how popular he is in specific districts and comparing his current support with his 2016 margin. When he sees his numbers slipping in a particular district, advisors said, the president will become more determined to travel there. The president is now meeting several times a week with his political team to discuss the elections. Already maintaining a robust travel schedule just weeks before the midterms, the president has told advisors he wants to campaign for Republicans 6 days a week and sees these mega rallies as a testing ground for his own 2020 re-election effort. He plans to travel nonstop in the final 10 days leading up to the November 6th elections, advisors said.
Well, Dom, as God said, Sunday is for golf.
Stay holy on the Sabbath.
The Sabbath, yes.
Advisors have urged him, without success, there's a shocker, not to travel to Texas or Wisconsin, two states where the president has announced campaign rallies next week. His team.
What?
Yeah.
They don't want him to come to the Badger State? Come on. What? Why would they not want Donald Trump to come here to beautiful Wisconsin? The fall colors, it's beautiful right now, Tom.
It is lovely up in upper Wisconsin. His advisors, his team, had argued that he would be wasting his time because they believe Cruz is going to win his race while Walker is likely to lose his. White House aides.
Come on, man. Let's linger. Let's relish this thought for just a moment. So Team Trump doesn't think that Scott Walker has a snowball's chance in hell. And they think by sending him to the state of Wisconsin that they could somehow tarnish the Trump brand, that he's not going to be, worth as much, or he's wasting his time.
Wasting his time
here
is the quote. And Crudy, breaking, I got a a text message from the Trump campaign. I'm heading to Mosinee, Wisconsin for a rally next Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. I'm expecting big league turnout. Get free tickets here. Crudy, are we signed up to go see Trump in Mosinee?
We are. Yes, I signed you up as well. Under your legal name, the one you don't use on the radio, P. Dominic.
Hey, did we get approval yet?
I have not seen that, but they did warn me. Please make sure that you like the TrumpCampaign.com or whatever, because there's a high likelihood that your emails, our emails, speaking on behalf of Trump Campaign 2020, could end up in your spam folder. So I did check the spam folders today, but I have not seen any response yet from Team Trump 2020. But apparently, Dom, historically speaking, Trump has let us in the room. We have been there for more than a few Trump rallies, more than you'd like to count. I feel quite confident. More than you are capable of counting.
I'm trying to block it all out, Crudy.
Many of our press passes are glued to that little table right there in the Brady Street studios. Reminders, West Bend, Waukesha, South Bend. I mean, Dom, all the big ports of call, and now you can add Mosinee to the list. I live in Wisconsin almost my entire life. I barely heard of the community of Mosinee, but next week it's going to be famous. Between you and I and Donald Trump, Mosinee, well, it's on the map, just like the Devil's Advocate's greatest radio show ever. Come back, join us on the phones, 844-967-2789. Got a fine guest at 3:30, Matt Rothschild, Batman. But until then, your calls are welcome, or text. Come back with us, more Devil's Advocates.
All of this extraordinary progress is at stake. It is at stake. I'm not on the ballot, but in a certain way, I'm on the ballot, so please go out and vote. Go out and vote. It's not about me. And I love being in Wisconsin. I love being in Wisconsin. Thank you. Thank you.
Every day, we see more and more divisiveness in our country. And a president in Donald Trump who tweets and shouts and tries to distract us from getting things done in our community. But in Wisconsin, we have a senator who's fighting back and staying focused on what matters. It's Tammy Baldwin who's fighting to make health care affordable and protect people with pre-existing conditions like cancer and diabetes. She wrote the Partners Act to help men and women get vocational and technical training for jobs that can support a family. And it's Tammy Baldwin who has introduced the Fair Chance Act that would ban the box. So anyone seeking a job who's been previously incarcerated doesn't have to check a box at the beginning of the hiring process. Every day, we have a senator who's focused on what matters.
I'm Tammy Baldwin, candidate for Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Tammy Baldwin for Senate.
Here in the Badger State, we have our own expressions. When we're looking to go on vacation, we state, well, let's go up north. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, president of Teamsters Local 200. Here in the Badger State, we also have another expression, union yes. The strength of the labor movement depends on elected officials here in Wisconsin and Washington, D.C. that support the values of working families that raise the standards for all. Give us a call at Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200. Be engaged.
The Devil's Advocates.
James Santel, he's a former U.S. attorney. He's our guest live on Brady.
Once again, a pleasure to be with you, gentlemen, to talk about the latest news breaking as we speak.
The FBI raided Michael Cohen, Trump's personal attorney, but once they got there, then they went back and got a more thorough warrant and said, we'll take everything.
My first reaction is you need to teach criminal constitutional law. You've got it just right in terms of the process.
They are kind of a big deal.
This is a really big deal.
Notorious. I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but they are kind of a big deal.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio, streaming live on YouTube and Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio, and always on the phones. Talk or text the party line, 844-967-2789.
Scott Walker, be careful what you wish for. Over the objections of advisors, Donald Trump has come to the great state of Wisconsin on behalf of Scott Walker and apparently Leah Vukmer as well, Dom. I would much prefer, personally, me, Crudy, and I think I speak for the entire left when I say I'd much prefer to see Bernie Sanders come to the great state of Wisconsin. Of course, he is doing just that on Monday. 2 big rallies in the state, one of them will be broadcast live right here on Real Resistance Radio. Mark Summerhouse at the Wisconsin State Journal's got a piece I'd like to share with the audience. Tom, I'll start. U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders isn't on the ballot in Wisconsin in 2018, but his views and candidates inspired by them are all over it. The Vermont Independent and 2016 Democratic presidential runner-up will visit Wisconsin Monday as part of a national tour to support Democratic candidates in the November 6 elections. In Kenosha, Sanders will rally supporters for Racine iron worker Randy Bryce, the Democrat seeking House Speaker Paul Ryan's congressional seat in southeastern Wisconsin. In Milwaukee, he'll appear on Real Resistance Radio with U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin, Democratic gubernatorial nominee Tony Evers. It's the second recent Wisconsin trip for Sanders, who held rallies in July in Eau Claire and Janesville for Baldwin and Price, respectively. And, Dom, we have broadcast a Bernie Sanders rally already this cycle. Democrats hope the upcoming rallies, about 2 weeks before the election day, will energize young voters to whom Sanders appealed in the 2016 presidential bid, but whose demographic traditionally turns out in low numbers in midterms to show up this time. A key part is motivating younger voters, said Paul Nolte, a political science professor at Marquette University. Nolette, perhaps. Paul, my bad. That's one of his big purposes here. In April of 2016, Sanders decisively beat Hillary Clinton in Wisconsin presidential primary with nearly a 2-to-1 margin in Dane County and capturing all counties but Milwaukee. Since then, the policy views Sanders has championed have become touchstones for many Democrats here and nationally. Examples include Sanders' Medicare for All health care plan and his call to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Don Peter Rickman, we've had him on the show, a Milwaukee labor activist, led Sanders' Wisconsin delegation to the 2016 Democratic National Convention, said Sanders created the political space to tout those issues, as well as free college tuition within the Democratic mainstream. Now Medicare for All is not taboo anymore, said State Rep our buddy David Bowen, a Dem from Milwaukee, an early Sanders supporter in 2016. Sanders' appeal in Wisconsin and other Midwest states also could be key if he mounts another White House bid in 2020, as many expect. Hashtag feel the burn, Dom.
Crudy, a June 2016 Marquette Law School poll found Sanders' favorability among registered voters at 53%, with 36 viewing him unfavorably and 10% undecided. If it found Sanders leading then Republican nominee Donald Trump by a whopping 56-31 margin. Trump narrowly beat Clinton, of course, earlier this month.
Again. What was the margin head-to-head Bernie Sanders against Donald Trump in Wisconsin?
56-31. And also, Crudy, earlier this month, let me just get this out, the Sanders Medicare for All proposal getting 49% support among registered voters, with 41% opposed.
So if Bernie Sanders is at 53% and Donald Trump's at 36%, who would you rather have at your rally?
Right.
I'm telling you, Bernie Sanders. Come back with us. We've got a fan favorite in his own right. He is Batman. He is Matt Rothschild, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Come back with us and Batman. That's next. More Devils on Real Resistance Radio.
Probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for the American worker.
Mr. Trump, do not tell us that you are a friend of the working class.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
I'm jumping in with my clothes on. Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Indoor baseball, anyone?
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
5 9s, your local single-source IT solutions provider. Specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy 59s.com.
Well, back in my day, we didn't build walls, we tore them down. That's why I listen to Real Resistance Radio. What's a firewall?
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
Warning, listening to the Devil's Advocates may expose you to opposing views.
Gary from Sussex.
I've been slapped a couple times for trying to go a little bit farther than someone wants to go. And I stopped, okay? We all done stupid things. The fact is, if I was running for the Supreme Court and some girl came back 58 years ago when I was, or 50 years ago when I was in high school, and to keep me from becoming a Supreme Court justice for something I did 50 years ago when I was stupid, this isn't right. He didn't rape her.
Our friend Jean from Eau Claire. It's been a while. Jeannie, I'm going to get a woman's perspective. What do you think?
Yeah!
That is the most despicable thing that I have ever heard, and it's men like him that hurt women every gall darn day, and we're not going to get a handle on this till we start dealing with these issues.
Dom and Crute are the devil's advocates.
Oh, Gary!
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gosted. Republican State Representative Dale Kuyenga is denying that he was drunk during a state budget debate in 2015. He made the denial in an email message to a conservative website. The issue did not come up during a candidate forum last night with his opponent Julie Henze. The two are running for a state Senate seat that represents Brookfield and Wauwatosa. The election is just 2 weeks from Tuesday. To register to vote or to find out where you vote, see a sample ballot, go to headcount.org. The city of Milwaukee is looking for people to work the polls on Election Day. For more information on that, go to city.milwaukee.gov/helpmilwaukeevote. The Brewers lost to the Dodgers last night in Game 5 of the NLCS. Final score was 5-2. Two teams will meet tomorrow night at Miller Park for Game 6 for Real Resistance Radio. I'm Keith Gosted.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dominic, we welcome back a friend. He is Batman, Matt Rothschild, Executive Director, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Matt, welcome back to the big show.
Thanks, Crudy. How you doing? How are you guys doing?
Hey, Matt, good, man. Thanks.
Today.
Before we
downtown Racine.
Well, what are you doing there, my friend?
Giving a talk tonight at the Unitarian Universalist Church on how democracies die. Nice, cheery talk.
Are you implying democracy is dead, young man?
I hope it's with a party, man.
It's on life support.
You make an excellent point, Matt Rothschild, and Republicans are currently out there seizing every opportunity to make it harder for people to vote. Yesterday on the show, Matt, we talked about Stacey Abrams. She is a African-American lady running for governor of the state of Georgia. Her opponent, who currently sits as the Secretary of State, is also the Republican gubernatorial candidate, but he controls access to the ballot and access to the voting booth. There are something to the effect of 53,000 Floridians that are currently ineligible to vote in some sort of purgatory pending status, and the vast majority of them, Matt, are African Americans. Let's start with this concept. Republicans win when less people vote, or at least that's the theory that they're game planning on, sir.
Well, it's not a new theory. It should be familiar to people here in Wisconsin because that's what they did with voter ID. And remember, you had Glenn Grothman bragging about it. You had the other state senators giddy about it, including Leah Vukmir when they passed voter ID. And you had Attorney General Schimmel saying it's one reason why Trump was going to win in November because of voter ID, or one reason he did. So they're pretty blunt about it. In Georgia, they're equally as blunt. This guy who's running for governor that you mentioned, Brian Kemp, he was quoted as saying this was to a private Republican group, but the audio got out. Democrats are registering all these minority voters. If they do that, they can win in November. I mean, you can't get much more blatant than that.
Isn't that kind of the point, though, Matt? You register voters, they go out and exercise their constitutional rights for representation, and, may the best person win.
Yeah, and that's how democracy is supposed to win. We're all supposed to have an equal say, and it's great if we all vote. In the United States, voter turnout is much less than it is in other countries. I mean, there are really only two good ways you should win an election. You get your people out, and you convince some of the other folks that you're right, and you get them out to vote for you, too. The Republicans are doing a third way, which is try to keep their opponents from voting. And that's about as anti-democratic small d as you can get. But there's a long history of it in this country.
Matt, do you think the Republicans here in the state of Wisconsin specifically, do you think they continue their endeavors to suppress voters? We know specifically in 2016 and in postmortems, we've seen scientific reports. There have been a number of voters, thousands of voters that were dissuaded from going to the polls, perhaps not because they didn't have proper voter ID, but they were under the impression that they could not meet the standard. Matt, do you think this sort of voter suppression is still going on in our backyard?
Oh, I'm sure it is. I would put nothing past the Walker crew. There's no bottom in that barrel. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did anything. And there's still those lingering effects of the voter ID law that you're suggesting, which is people are confused about what they need to vote or discouraged from going and getting what they need to vote because they think it's going to be too much of a hassle. I just want to suggest to anyone who's listening, go to the League of Women Voters of Wisconsin or go to Common Cause of Wisconsin, and they've got all the information right there on their homepage about what you need to register to vote or go to vote. And if you want to find your voting place and all that, you can go to the Wisconsin Elections Board. They've got all that material. It's not hard. Get it done. You can also register the day of voting, still in Wisconsin. They may go after that at some point, but at least right now you can register on November 6th. So there's really no reason not to go to vote. And you know what I like to say? Election day is the only day where there's real equality in America, where your vote counts just as much as Charles Koch's vote.
But, Matt, while I appreciate what the League of Women Voters do and other fine organizations, shouldn't it be the Republican Party or the government of the state of Wisconsin informing the electorate about the requirements and how they can go to the polls? If the Republicans change the law, shouldn't they be the ones to properly inform the electorate of what changes they can expect at the ballot box? Matt, I have not heard a single ad in this elective cycle, not coming from our government, telling people, here's what you need to vote.
Yeah, it would be nice. Sure would be nice if you saw ads sponsored by the government of Wisconsin encouraging people to vote and telling them what they need to do to vote. But it's a very passive, to say the least, operation over there at the Wisconsin Elections Board. And you got to rely on the good government groups like the League of Women Voters to get this thing done.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. We got Matt Rothschild, Executive Director of Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. And Matt, you guys do fine work. You are the watchdogs. And Matt, one of the other things Republicans do quite well, especially here in the state of Wisconsin, is they cash dark money checks. Matt, let's turn the conversation to what you do best. Let's take a look at the dark money. Matt, where are we at in this race?
Well, the groups that are spending the most money right now, Koch brothers have spent almost $6 million. Their group, Americans for Prosperity, just in this one cycle. And the NRA is spending a lot of money. The Republican Governors Association is spending a lot of money. These Republican groups, these outside groups that are either doing express advocacy, telling you who to vote for exactly, or doing issue ads, are far outspending the Democratic-leaning outside groups. So on top of that, the Republican candidates and committees are 3-to-1 advantage over the Democrats. So in the money game, in the money chase, the Republicans are winning. And it's not something that's unusual, but, the Democrats, if they're going to win, they either have to raise a ton of money in the next 2 weeks and get it up on the air, or they need to have a better ground game. And it remains to be seen whether that's going to happen.
Matt, I know Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, you track what you can, but obviously this dark money flow is a little harder. How do you or anyone who wants to take a look find out how much money is being spent and who's directing it for these dark money groups?
Right. So if there's an ad on TV that says, call Tammy Baldwin and tell her to stop doing whatever, and here's her phone number, we go backwards and we contact the station that's running the ad and ask them how much that ad costs, and we tabulate, how much that group has spent. But we don't know who gave that group money. That's the problem. We know who the group is, but we don't know who's funding the group, and we should be able to find that out. We need to change the law in Wisconsin to do that, but we try to work as much as possible to put a fair estimate on what these outside dark money groups are spending. And I just want to say for listeners, you can go watch a movie called Dark Money on PBS on your computer or on your television for free through the end of the month. It talks about all this issue of dark money and how pernicious it is. So I highly recommend that.
Matt, I wanted to get one question in before we run out of time today regarding the voter ID and the suppression that Republicans are imposing upon citizens of this country. North Dakota voter ID law, apparently some Native Americans are issued, P.O. boxes, and now they have a new voter ID law that requires a home address. Are you familiar with this situation, Matt? And what responsibility does the government have in the state of North Dakota or even the state of Wisconsin to inform people how to become compliant with their voter suppression laws?
Well, the North Dakota thing is outrageous, and it's being challenged in court as blatantly an effort to disenfranchise Native Americans. And I think the Indian community in the United States is furious about this, and rightfully so. It's happening in other places too, but this is the most blatant one, hurting Heidi Heitkamp too. But the government in North Dakota has an obligation to make it easy. Every government in a democracy has an obligation to make it easy for the citizens to vote, not to make it harder for them to vote. That's outrageous.
Well, I think that's kind of the point. If you can't win in the arena of ideas, you mess with the mechanics of the vote and try to influence it in other places to, somehow bottleneck it up and keep the minority in check. Matt, how if people want to change this, if people have issues with these kinds of things, it's just simply about electing somebody else who will do that? How do we, as citizens, we don't have binding referendums here in the state of Wisconsin. Is our only chance to actually go out and vote the bums out who support this kind of governmental behavior?
Well, that's the main one right now. I really encourage people to register to vote, go out and vote on November 6th, and vote for candidates who are for clean government. We need to change the way Wisconsin's been going, and this is one primary way to do it, one crucial way to do it in the next 3 weeks. And beyond that, we need to protest and keep hassling whoever's running for office from whatever party that we need to clean things up. Otherwise, people are going to get so turned off, so apathetic, so cynical that they won't even bother, and then the folks in power will just love it.
Mm-hmm. Matt Rothschild, I have been getting mailers, some really fancy schmancy full-color mailers from Americans for Prosperity. You and I both know that's a Koch brothers funded group. I'm not sure if everyone pays that close attention, but they're telling me to specifically vote against Tony Evers. And to my perception, Matt, that would be an express advocate. That's someone telling me vote for, vote against. If they're telling me to vote against Tony Evers, they're effectively express advocates. But even that law, which, of course, Scott Walker was accused of crossing the bright red legal line of, coordination with express advocacy groups, these groups apparently are expressly advocating in-kind contributions to the Scott Walker campaign. Matt, why is that permissible under Wisconsin law?
Well, two things. One, this is the first year that Americans for Prosperity, the Koch brothers, has actually done express advocacy and registered as an express advocacy group. They did finally register, yeah. So you can find that on the CFIS, on the government elections website. But they shouldn't be able to coordinate if they're doing express advocacy with any candidate. The problem is the definition under the Wisconsin law that the Republicans rammed through in 2015 defines a coordination with express advocacy groups so narrow that it's almost impossible to enforce. What would have to happen is a candidate would have to tell an officer of Americans for Prosperity, please put this advertisement on, and then the officer would have to say, basically, yes, sir, we're going to do it. So unless it's that explicit, they can still play hanky-panky.
Now, Matt, final question for you, my friend. My understanding is there was a court order in federal elections that nonprofits, these 501c3s, were going to have to make disclosure of their donors. But, Matt, my understanding is a number of these PACs, these outside groups, these dark money federal electioneering groups have basically ignored the law, have failed to disclose their donors. Matt, want to get your interpretation. Apparently, these groups just flaunt the law and flaunt the judge's ruling.
Yeah, they need, they can be found in contempt of court or guilty of violating the law as it's interpreted right now. It doesn't apply in state races for governor or state senator or state assembly, but if Leah Buchner is doing it, that'd be a problem. So, or the group supporting her, that'd be a problem. So, fortunately, that was a good ruling. We'll see if the currently constituted U.S. Supreme Court will uphold that federal court ruling.
Okay, one last question. Matt, next week in the next week in the great state of Wisconsin, we got a couple surrogates coming on behalf of the different campaigns. We got Bernie Sanders on behalf of Tony Evers and the Dem ticket, and we got Donald Trump on behalf of Leah Vukmir and Scott Walker. Donald Trump is basically siphoning off money that could be applicable to the midterms. Matt, I think I read that Donald Trump's raised over $100 million for his 2020 presidential campaign. Sort of a personal question, Matt. Which rally would you rather be at? And do you see this as a problem that Donald Trump's effectively siphoning money away from the midterms? Is that going to be a problem for these Republicans?
Well, I'd rather go to Bernie's, that's for sure. But I think Trump is going to hurt Leah Vukmir. She thinks by holding hands with Donald Trump, that's going to help her get elected. I think it's going to do quite the opposite, but we'll have to see.
Matt Rothschild, he's Batman. They're the good guys and girls over at the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. Matt Rothschild, executive director thereof. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Devil's Advocates radio show. Will I see you at the Bernie rally on Monday, Matt?
Could be.
We'll be the handsome fellows in the back, Matt. Hope to see you there.
Thanks, Matt.
I'll come get you.
Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates. You can always join us here on the phones. The one time I've been PolitiFacted, yours truly, this fine host, Dom, it's glued on the table right in front of you there. The question, Bernie Sanders, the most popular politician in the great United States of America. I got it mostly true because technically, Barack Obama, while not currently an active politician, was 1 point higher in one poll somewhere. But that makes me mostly true, and that's more than you can say about any of these GD Republicans. Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. Want to hear from you. Any opinions? It's election time. We should be excited. This is like playoff time. I'm not going through the baseball analogies again. You understand what I mean. 844-967-2789.
Come on, let's get nuts.
The American dream is dead.
I'm Brian Stile. I was born and raised in southeast Wisconsin. It's my home. I approve this message because from agriculture to high-tech manufacturing, we work every day to move Wisconsin forward. We all want our communities to thrive so the next generation has the opportunity for good-paying jobs, like it used to be. I'm Brian Stile, and you can count on me to always put you and your family first.
Paid for by Stile for Wisconsin, Inc.
We don't need to imagine the challenges our state faces. We live them every day. This is former State Representative Mandela Barnes. I'm running to be your next Lieutenant Governor. And whether it's more access to affordable health care, or clean water, or better jobs, or wanting the best schools for our kids, there's only one candidate for governor who will get results: Tony Evers. That's what Tony's done as a teacher and as state superintendent of public schools. I've seen Tony's character and his passion to do what's right for kids. I've seen Tony Evers listen to the concerns and problems of people around the state, and I've worked with him to find solutions to those problems. Isn't that what we need? 8 years is enough of Scott Walker and his failed politics of division. We need a governor who cares about all of us. We need a governor who's concerned about the next generation, not just the next election. It's time for a change. That's why Tony for Wisconsin paid for this ad.
JWK Management has many apartments available on the east side of Milwaukee. Currently, there's an opening just above Campali Restaurant overlooking historic Brady Street. 3 bedrooms, 1.5 bath with 1,500 square feet, a large kitchen, pantry, and main living space. Free washer and dryer in the building, and off-street parking is available. For more information, call 608-729-1810. For your new apartment, call 608-729-1810.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, Real Resistance Radio, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter at Devil Radio. And the phone lines always open. Toll free, talk or text. 844-967-2789.
Thank you to our good buddy Matt Rothschild, Executive Director, Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. They are the watchdogs. They're watching the dark money, and it's just rolling in to the great state of Wisconsin. I know we're not the only place where the outside spending is rampant, but I think literally the state of Wisconsin, at least in the senatorial race, might have the greatest proportion of outside spending across the nation.
Really?
Don, before we turn our full attention back to the great state of Wisconsin, I want to talk about another attempt to stick it to the electorate by Republicans. This, a Trump cabinet secretary, Wilbur Ross, lied to Congress about the GOP's plot to rig the census. This should be a national scandal, according to Jay Mickelson over at the Daily Beast. The census is usually a dull affair, but thanks to the Trump administration, it's now a slow-boiling controversy that might take down Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, whose department administers the census and who appears to have lied under oath to Congress. The reason is a single question the administration has sought to add to the census: whether the respondent is an American citizen. On the surface, this may seem innocuous, but based on several studies, it will almost certainly lead to underparticipation by communities of color, especially Latinos. As a result, some states will have less representation in the House of Representatives than they otherwise should and will get less money from the federal government. Blue states like California and New York will be hardest hit, as would Texas, which is increasingly Democratic. In other words, the citizenship question is another tactic of voter suppression.
Secretary Ross approved the question on March 26th, but there are now 6 lawsuits over the change, Crudy. One of them is headed to the Supreme Court, in which, in what will likely be Justice Brett Kavanaugh's first politically contentious case. From the start, the proposal was controversial, opposed by nearly every expert on the census who voiced an opinion about it. Independent experts all agreed it would deter Latinos from answering the census for fear of exposing themselves or family members to deportation or investigation. But whose idea was it, Crute? In March, Secretary Ross testified under oath that the Department of Justice asked him to make the change in a December 2017 letter so that they could better enforce the Voting Rights Act. But emails uncovered in one of the lawsuits revealed that was a lie. In fact, Ross had requested that DOJ send the letter to justify the policy change that he'd already decided to make. So if not the Justice Department, then who? Turns out Ross also lied under oath about whether he'd talked with presidential advisors Steve Bannon and Chris Kobach. Ross testified that he did not, but now we know that he had discussed the issue with them in the spring of 2017 and that Kobach proposed the specific language for the citizenship question. Kobach was the architect of voter suppression in Kansas, where as Secretary of State he suspended more than 36,000 Kansas voters, disproportionately people of color. Then he was unable to prove any cases of fraud in a federal lawsuit. Kobach then went on to head Trump's discredited Voter Fraud Commission, which disbanded before finding a single instance of fraud. He is now the Republican nominee for the governor of Kansas, having won the primary under suspicious circumstances, Crute.
Phil Sparks, co-director of the Census Project, a coalition of around 200 stakeholder organizations committed to a fair and accurate census, told the Daily Beast that the citizenship question was a blatant political move. Ross even lied about the fact-finding meeting he held in early 2018 with civil rights and community organizations. But now we know that his mind was already made up. Those were sham interviews, Sparks said. We were, to put it mildly, totally dismayed by his actions in March of 2018, but also confounded and confused by his misleading statements to stakeholders a year earlier when he initiated the process. Sparks noted that the census project is a nonpartisan coalition, including business, labor, trade organizations, and several chambers of Congress. The 6 lawsuits allege that citizenship question is unconstitutional. The census is one of the few government functions that is embedded in the Constitution, Sparks observed, as well as adopted without the necessary administrative review. The leading suit is taking place in New York and joined by 18 other attorneys general. The question now is whether Secretary Ross can be compelled to give a sworn deposition in the lawsuit. The federal judge in New York case has ordered him, as well as John Gore, the official from the Justice Department who allegedly came up with the pretext for the change, to do so. But the Trump administration has appealed that decision straight to the Supreme Court.
Of course.
A decision from the court is expected any day now. Justice Ginsburg, who was assigned the appeal, temporarily halted the order last week. She may decide the matter herself, or all of the justices may rule immediately, or the court may request full briefing and oral argument. In any case, the court is expected to act quickly since the printing of the 2020 census form is set to begin in just a few months. If the matter is referred to the full court, it will be Justice Kavanaugh's first politically contentious case, even without Ross and Gore's depositions. The documents unearthed already led Republicans and Democrats alike to demand answers from Secretary Ross. Here's one more quote to wrap it up nicely, Dom. The Trump administration has never told the American people the truth about the citizenship question, and it is increasingly clear that the DOJ engaged in pretextual exercise to justify a political decision that could have serious consequences for the accuracy of the census, said Austin Evers, Executive Director of America Oversight, in a statement. Don, Wilbur Ross lying, I mean, it's very Trump-like for him to do so.
Sure is.
But they are taking every available step to suppress especially voters of color, Latinos, because that's a demographic that Donald Trump's not doing so well with, especially in light of today's earlier tweet. Apparently a group of people from Honduras walking towards America, Donald Trump's ready to, start World War III on the Mexican border, send in troops, come back with us. Hour 2 is next. More Devil's Advocates.
I was honestly concerned that he might lie about the nature of our meeting, and so I thought it really important to document.
I swear, this whole thing's a setup, a scam, a frame job.
Very powerful.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Hi, my name is Shantae, your local Hyatt pharmacist. With more than 10 locations here in the Milwaukee area, we're here to simplify your lives one script at a time. With free delivery to your home or work, where all your medications are brought together in one convenient dosage packaged, individualized to your daily medication regimen. We set up in-house calls with the licensed pharmacist to assist in medication management. We accept all insurance plans. To learn more about Hyatt, visit us at our website, HAYATRX.com.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Decision on hold. White House shouting. I'm Mike Moss. President Trump says the U.S. will wait before deciding whether to take action on reports the Saudis murdered journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
We're waiting for some investigations and waiting for the results. And we'll have them very soon, and I think we'll be making a statement, a very strong statement. But we're waiting for the results of about 3 different investigations, and we should be able to get to the bottom fairly soon.
A heated West Wing shouting match between Chief of Staff John Kelly and National Security Advisor John Bolton. Correspondent Caitlin Collins.
One source told me today that it equated to essentially a falling out
between the two men, and they were fearing that there could be a resignation that could come out of this, and they didn't think that would be from John Bolton, the National Security Advisor, who continued on with his meetings per normal today, but from John Kelly.
For the first time, the Justice Department is looking into reports of Catholic Church clergy abuse. Correspondent Steve Kastenbaum says the focus is Pennsylvania.
Federal investigators served subpoenas to Roman Catholic dioceses across the state. The Justice Department is looking for sensitive church files and testimony from church leaders in the wake of the Pennsylvania grand jury report that documented the cover-up of 301 predatory priests over the course of decades.
Former President Jimmy Carter says he believes Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh is unfit to serve on the Supreme Court. Speaking to a class at Emory University, Carter called Kavanaugh's confirmation to the High Court a very serious mistake. Winter is looking wet and especially mild for much of the country, thanks to a weak El Nino that's brewing. The National Weather Service forecast a warmer than normal winter for the northern and western three-quarters of the nation. On Wall Street, another tough day sparked by trade and interest rate fears. The Dow closed down 327, the S&P down 40. I'm Mike Moss.
Have you outgrown your house? Are you sick of apartment living? Not ready to buy, but know you need to move? Hi, folks. This is Tom Hartman for CCL Management in Middleton. You should consider moving up to one of the finer rental homes CCL Management represents. Unique houses and condos, always clean. Most are pet-friendly. Visit cclmanagement.com today to find your new home. CCL Management, Dane County's premier leasing and property management company.
Call CCL Management at 833-0009. That's 833-0009. Or visit cclmanagement.com today.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio. Call in live at 844-967-2789 and give your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on local and national topics. Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m., it will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes on Real Resistance Radio. Always streaming live on realresistanceradio.com.
California must reconsider parole for some 4,000 inmates who are serving life sentences.
Prop 57, an initiative aimed at reducing prison overcrowding, was approved by voters in 2016. It says that all inmates serving indeterminate sentences, life sentences, for nonviolent crime convictions must be considered for parole. The state tried to exclude 3 strike felons and sex offenders, but an appellate court ruled all means all.
And they're disproportionately African American, they're disproportionately mentally ill.
Michael Romano, director of Stanford Law School's 3 Strikes Project, says they are not automatically released. A parole board still has to determine whether they pose any danger, but it is unlawful for them not to be considered. Jim Roop, Los Angeles.
As about 3,000 Hondurans are making their way through Guatemala, attention and pressure are turning to Mexico. President Trump has threatened to close the busy U.S.-Mexico border if authorities there fail to stop the caravan. Mexican police have been dispatched to try to block the group. I'm Mike Moss.
Wisconsin's doing terribly. The roads are a disaster because they don't have any money to rebuild them. They're borrowing money like crazy. They projected a $1 billion surplus, and it turns out to be a deficit of $2.2 billion. The schools are a disaster. The hospitals and education is a disaster. And when I see Scott Walker with his little motorcycle and puts his helmet on, and he gets off and he makes a speech. But, he's always riding like, he gets off a bike like he's a big tough guy. Okay, or a little tough guy. Their lobbyists, their special interests, and their donors will start calling. They gave you $1 million to your campaign, and this one gave you $5 million, and this one, you have to do it. You know what he's going to say? Okay, I'll do it.
Mr. Trump, you're using the talking points of the Democrats, and as we all know, I'm using facts.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gosted. Tomorrow evening is a big night for political debates in Milwaukee. Beginning at 7 p.m., Senator Tammy Baldwin and challenger Leah Vukmer will meet for a debate that will be televised on Channel 12 in the Milwaukee area. At 7:30, candidates for Congress Randy Bryce and Brian Steil will debate at the Oak Creek City Hall. That debate is open to the public on a first-come, first-served basis and will be broadcast on jsonline.com. And then, beginning at 8 p.m., 2 candidates for governor, Scott Walker and Tony Evers, will participate in a debate that will broadcast nationally on C-SPAN 2. Thursday, sunshine, highs in the upper 50s. Tonight, clear skies, lows in the mid-40s. Friday, partly sunny and breezy with a chance of rain, highs around 60 degrees. Saturday, mostly sunny and breezy with rain likely, highs in the mid-40s. For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Keith Gosted.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Dom, there is some big breaking news right here in the great state of Wisconsin. A fourth, count it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fourth Walker, former cabinet secretary, has now come forward to lambaste their former boss and to support Tony Evers. And I mean, you could say sour grapes, you know, these low-level coffee getters. But this is the fourth full-fledged cabinet secretary that's come out against the boss, Scotty Wanker. A letter. Paul Jaden, he was the first CEO of the WEDIC Public-Private Partnership. He wrote a letter in conjunction with our pal Ed Wall and another, and I want to read the letter. And I would point out, Dom, in deference to the fact that tomorrow a big debate night between Tony Evers and Scott Walker, well, we're going to, A, make a little room for the guy who didn't make it on the stage, the Libertarian candidate. Tomorrow on the big show, we got Phil Anderson. He'll be joining us in studio on the Brady Street. And we've got former Cabinet Secretary, former Department of Corrections Secretary Ed Wall coming back on the big show. I did communicate with Ed Wall today. He's become something of a friend. I said jump, and he said, how high, Crudy?
Oh, God.
Is that your definition of friendship, by the way?
That's the best kind of friend. Are you kidding me? No, I should be completely accurate. He was quite deferential to me yesterday. Where is the... it's not that important, but anyway, so here it is. What I say, I threw some times to Mr. Wall, our new friend, and here's how he responded via text. Anything for Crudy is tattooed on my forehead. And he put that in quotes. Ed, it's becoming a fine friend.
I guess we're not that great of friends to you, Crudy. That's cool, man.
No doubt.
Do you have a tattoo on your forehead?
Yes, it says jobs.
250,000 jobs. So anyways, tomorrow in the happy hour, Ed Wall will make it a little happier. And Ed did try to help me get in touch with Paul Jaden today. Apparently, Mr. Jaden still a little nervous. Had to quit his economic development job today. Guy was making $200,000 a year, quit his job just so he could publicly come out and be a little political during this time, this oh so important time, just so he could write this letter. And I think we need to share it with the audience, Tom. I'm going to go first because I'm selfish like that. At some time in the past 8 years, each of us was asked by Scott Walker to serve as cabinet secretary in his administration. Individually, we arrived at our constitutional duties with an intense desire to serve the people of Wisconsin in a fervent belief that Scott Walker had that same desire. We further believed that Governor Walker's agenda was one that we were willing to embrace and to help implement. We were proud to lead the way on some of the bold initiatives in our state agencies. That pride evaporated at various times for each of us as we found ourselves disagreeing with both policy and practices within the administration that lacked integrity. It became clear that his focus, talking about Scott Walker, was not on meeting his obligations to the public, but to advancing his own political career at a tremendous cost to taxpayers and families. As we come to a critical election, we find it imperative that we share with Wisconsin voters why we will not be voting for Governor Walker. It starts with transportation, education, and safety issues and extends to pervasive questionable practices within his administration. There can no longer be any dispute that over the fact that Wisconsin's infrastructure is deteriorating and that we have gone from bragging about our roads and leading the way in innovation to being endangered and embarrassed by them. A highway system that is safe, efficient, and in good repair is critically important to industry, agriculture, and tourism. Despite his earlier pledge that investing in infrastructure would be a theme in his administration, the governor's record on transportation has been marked by an unwillingness to deal reasonably with this issue. His decision to ignore the unanimous recommendations of his own bipartisan Commission on Transportation Finance has resulted in increased debt, delayed and canceled projects, and deteriorating highway conditions. In fact, data provided by the Wisconsin DOT shows that inflation-adjusted spending on highway construction is currently the lowest it has been in 20 years. A constant theme during Governor Walker's tenure has been to put off difficult decisions, drive our state further in debt, and kick the can down the road for future generations to tackle at higher cost with opportunities lost. He lacks the basic understanding that investing in our state's infrastructure spurs economic growth. Meanwhile, our educational systems are still reeling from the historic cuts we've experienced since 2011. Governor Walker's first budget... Oh no, Dom, I need some help.
Governor Walker's first budget cut funding for public schools by $1.2 billion, including $800 million from K through 12 schools. And just 2 years later, he went on to enact the biggest cuts to education in Wisconsin state history. 2 years after that, the governor cut our UW system by $250 million while attempting to abolish the Wisconsin idea. The magnitude of these cuts has compromised the quality of higher education in our state and greatly diminished the mission of the UW system to serve the people of Wisconsin. Governor Walker fundamentally doesn't understand that educational quality has a direct impact on economic growth. Next year, Wisconsin will invest less in public school districts than it did in 2011, which is one of the reasons that between 2010 and spring 2017, more than 72% of Wisconsin school districts went to referendum, some of them doing so multiple times. More than 1 million Wisconsinites have been forced to raise their own property taxes to support their local schools. Economic and workforce development are driven by our schools, and once again we see what was once our biggest boast becoming one of our biggest laments. All of us have witnessed how job preservation and the siren call of higher office have influenced the governor's approach to conducting business in Madison. During the recall in 2012, he stopped attending cabinet meetings and delegated state business to his chief of staff and DOA secretary. When he decided to run for president in 2015, he subordinated Wisconsin interests to those in Iowa and New Hampshire, and his policy/budget proposals started to clash with members of his own party who still would have to stand for election in Wisconsin. The team he assembled closest to him had strict orders with respect to the way we, as former colleagues, did business. Those practices bore no resemblance to sound management or transparency. In fact, while those with the greatest access to the governor were making important decisions and steering others to do likewise, posterity would have no record of their existence. The governor and his team do not like to leave a paper trail or state record of their actions relating to the conduct of state business. They simply did everything in their power to avoid transparency in his decision-making process so they could not be held to account. Internally, Governor Walker has consistently eschewed sound management practices in favor of schemes or cover-up that have routinely put his future ahead of the state. The result is micromanagement, manipulation, and mischief. We have all been witness to more than our share of this. It's time to build a more open and transparent government to ensure the integrity of our public agencies and institutions. We have served our state and local governments in many capacities over our careers and have voted for and supported Republicans. Therefore, we come to this next statement only after a great deal of reflection and discernment. On November 6, 2018, please vote with us for Tony Evers. Signed, Peter Bilston, Secretary, Department of Financial Institutions, Paul Jaden, Secretary, Department of Commerce, and Ed Wall, Secretary, Department of Corrections.
And, Dom, that PDF is embedded at themadison.com. The article by Matthew DeFore, I'd like to reference it briefly. I know a lot of it's a rehash of the statement we just read for you, but some of the background. A fourth former secretary for Governor Scott Walker has come forward to criticize the Republican governor after resigning from his job leading Madison's Economic Development Agency in order to speak more freely. Now, that is sacrifice. I hope he's got a good job lined up for after the election, Dom. Paul Jaden, the first CEO of the Wisconsin Economic Development Corp., informed the board of the Madison Region Economic Partnership on Wednesday that he was resigning his $208,000 a year job. He said the resignation was necessary to avoid entangling the agency with his political activity. On Thursday, that's today, buddy, Jaden released to the Wisconsin State Journal an open letter co-signed by former Corrections Secretary Ed Wall. He'll be a guest on this big show tomorrow at 5:05, and former Financial Institution Secretary Peter Bilston, slamming Walker and endorsing Walker's Democratic opponent, State Superintendent Tony Evers. Both Wall and Bilston have recorded videos for Evers' campaign. That's got to sting. And another ex-cabinet official, former Transportation Secretary Mark Gottlieb, has also come out against Walker in recent months, saying the governor hasn't been telling the truth about road funding. Gottlieb didn't sign the letter, and hasn't endorsed Evers. And we talked about the letter, Dom, but this is kind of damning. We've now got 4 Walker cabinet secretaries, not coffee boys, senior top-level officials that have come out. 3 of them have said, go vote for Tony Evers. All 4 of them have come out and said that Scott Walker puts his own ambition before the needs and the voters of the state of Wisconsin. They should know they were tasked with carrying out the bad governance.
Micromanagement, manipulation, mischief, schemes, cover-ups. This is absolutely damning. These are Republicans that Scott Walker asked to be secretary, cabinet members, Crudy. These are not left-wing crazy radio hosts that are standing in judgment. Now, I happen to believe with their statements. I think it is bold for them to come out. I appreciate the fact that they're putting good governance ahead of political party. And if you got 4 of them, that means there's probably more that somewhat think that way. What is Walker? How do you counter this? This isn't media lying to you. These are Republicans coming out against this governor and just excoriating, lacking integrity, infrastructure deteriorating. I don't know how a Democrat could do any more damage than these Republicans have done to Governor Walker.
Well, Dominic, Scott Walker would tell you the mainstream media will lie to you, and that's why he immediately went to go do some damage control this afternoon on Righty, Whitey Talk Radio. Many of our inferior competitors up and down the dial hosted the Goobinator today, and the Goobinator, he's still spinning his fictions. We'll play some of that for you next, and then I'm going to take a crack at Leah Vukmer and pre-existing conditions. Come back with us. We are the Devil's Advocates. Phone lines open, 844-967-2789.
But with the Walker administration, particularly with the governor, everything is about deniability. And that's what they're trying to do. They, he never saw it. That's what they'll say about everything.
We have good roads in this state, and I hear that from people all the time. They say, I don't know what the heck they're talking about.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison, resisting dirty carpets and harsh chemicals. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We're not using any soaps. We're not using any chemicals. We cost about the same as the other guys. You look at it and you go, where's the downside? You got a completely green clean. That's awesome. We guarantee it. There's no downside.
There's no downside. Use Zero Res. Call Zero Res today. 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Well, look who's here. Hey, James.
Hey, Francine. How you doing?
I'm good. What are you doing walking the neighborhood with that clipboard? Are you running for something?
Nope. I'm out knocking on doors for Tammy Baldwin.
Oh, I like her, but I really don't know that much about her.
Well, she wrote the Partners Act to provide job training in high-skilled, good-paying jobs. And she sponsored a bill to ban the box, so after someone's been incarcerated, they don't have to put it on their initial job application.
That's important. But aren't you knocking on doors a little early?
Actually, early voting's already started. You can go to the Zeidler Building, the Midtown Center, MATC, the Peck School at UWM, or the Mitchell, Zablocki, Mill Road, and Center Street libraries anytime Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And be sure to bring a photo ID.
I'll be there to vote for Tammy. And thanks for doing this, James. I hope you get everybody out to vote.
I'm Tammy Baldwin, candidate for Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Tammy Baldwin for Senate.
All workers benefit from unions, as unions create the highest standard in wages, health and welfare, retirement security, and workplace protections. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters General Local 200. Your voice is your strength. The ability to build a stronger and better tomorrow begins today. Teamster Local 200 represents workers in numerous industries, and our team is ready to sit down with you and your co-workers to build your unified team. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us on Facebook or www.teamsterslocal200.com.
The Devil's Advocates, because it's always 420 somewhere.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you so much for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio. And the party line's always open, toll-free, talk or text at 844-967-2789. Like Jeff, he texted us out. Said you have to micromanage the WEDC so that all that sweet public money can go to Scott Walker's donors. Otherwise, how would it work, Crute?
Well, let's not forget, it was Paul Jaden, then the CEO at the WEDC, that talked about the very first loan that ever came down the pike. Wasn't that from a maxed out Scott Walker donor, Bill Minahan, over at BCI, I believe it was. And Minahan took $500,000 off the state of Wisconsin and used it to pay for a Maserati. And they knew he was doing that. And that loan was personally shepherded through without underwriting. There's no loan file, at least none that they're willing to produce. And Jaden at the time called it, an unprecedented move. Perhaps not the first loan, but the first loan ever shepherded through by Walker's number one cabinet secretary. The number one at that time was Mike Hipsch. And Hipsch, who's now moved on to the Public Service Commission, personally shepherded the Minahan, the maxed out donor, through a process that didn't include loan documents or underwriting. And after he defaulted on the $500,000, the Walker administration, through Mike Hipsch, tried to get more money. Now today, we know this relatively negative letter about the Walker administration came out, and there's more in this Matthew DeFore piece. A little more I'd like to share with the audience, Dom. Walker's campaign did not respond directly to the former official's critique, but in a statement, Walker's spokesman, Austin Altenberg, obliquely criticized Jaden's stewardship of WEDC. Let's not forget, it was Scott Walker's creation, and Scott Walker was chairman of the board. So this criticism is also of Altenberg's boss, citing a nonpartisan legislative audit bureau memo from May of 2013, 7 months after Jaden left the agency. Among other things, the audit found WEDC, and here's a quote from the LAB, did not have sufficient policies, including some that are statutorily required to administer its programs effectively, award some grants, loans, and tax credits to ineligible recipients, like Scott Walker's maxed out campaign donor, Bill Minahan. for ineligible projects and for amounts that exceeded specified limits and did not consistently perform statutorily required program oversight duties, such as monitoring the contractually specified performance of award recipients, and could report more clearly on the number of jobs created and retained as a result of its programs. Now, understand this oblique criticism of Jaden, the former CEO of WEDC, that didn't change to the next LAB audit after Jaden left. So if you're going to say, well, look, it's all Jaden's fault, then why didn't it get better until like 3 audits later? And I'm not even sure that the WEDC counts jobs created or affected to this day.
Impacted, Curdy, impacted. And I believe I heard one of those directors saying that it's an economic development agency, not a jobs agency.
Mark Hogan, I believe, told us directly. We asked him that question. Dom, more of the quote from Altenberg. WEDC has grown leaps and bounds in success after moving on from the days of Paul Jaden's management and Scott Walker's management. He fired himself as the chairman of the board, but of course that was just because he was trying to clean up his resume to go run for president. The linchpin to huge wins and good-paying jobs in the Wisconsin comeback, including bringing Amazon, Haribo, and Foxconn to Wisconsin. Now, the current job that Paul Jaden holds is at the Mad Rep. That's an economic development board here in the city of Madison. Board chairman Tim Galliard, in a statement, praised Jaden's leadership over the past 6 years, saying Mad Rep has played an integral role in advancing the Madison region's economy, has raised the stature of the region on a national level, and created believers in economic development at the local level. Galliard said the board rejected Jaden's resignation and they asked him to stay on. They said, don't quit. Just take a leave of absence. Go say what you got to say about the governor, but do not quit. Jaden said his resignation is final.
Ouch.
So Scott Walker's administration wants to blame, the mismanagement of WEDC on Jaden. He was the first CEO, but Scott Walker was the chairman of the board. It was Scott Walker's donor, Minahan, that was getting the benefit of the personally shepherded loan from Mike Hipsch. And Greenbox, wasn't that also a Scott Walker guy, the guy who's pleading guilty to federal fraud cases?
Vandenheuvel, yeah.
You know, you can try to lay it on Jaden, but Jaden's got a good job. He just quit that job. I mean, think about this. That's real sacrifice, quitting a $200,000 a year job just so you could not encumber anyone else with your criticism for the governor of the state of Wisconsin. Tom, I know some guys that have made a few sacrifices themselves just for the right to do a little Walker bashing every single day. Come back with us. Your turn to Walker bash as well. And Leah Vukmar, you're catching hell after the break. Everyone's welcome at 844-967-2789. Paul Jaden, call me.
Freak out. Nanny Mapley number 9. Mary had a little lamb.
Here's what I challenge you to do. Go back through his entire time in office and see if you can find him once visiting a state agency. I'll bet you can't.
Lewis bet me that we couldn't both get rich and put you on the poorhouse at the same time. He didn't think we could do it. I won.
I love being
Join
governor.
the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
You're not wired to have a response to this sound. But when we introduce a new stimulus, save the food, we're helping to stop food waste. Save the food. For tips and recipes, visit savethefood.com. Brought to you by NRDC and the Ad Council.
Bernie Sanders is having an early vote rally in Milwaukee, and Real Resistance Radio will bring it to you live. Tune in Monday morning, October 22nd, when the senator from Vermont takes the stage with Senator Tammy Baldwin, Congresswoman Gwen Moore, Tony Evers, Mandela Barnes, and Randy Bryce in the Wisconsin Room at the UW-Milwaukee Student Union, 2200 East Kenwood Boulevard. Doors open at 8 a.m. Live radio broadcast starts at 9:30. After the rally, bring your photo ID and head over to the Peck School for an early vote. Mandatory listening from Real Resistance Radio.
Well, back in my day, we didn't build walls, we tore them down. That's why I listen to Real Resistance Radio. What's a firewall?
Hey everyone, it's your nominee for Lieutenant Governor, Mandela Barnes. I know I don't need to tell you what's at stake with this election, but I want to talk to you about my friend and running mate, Tony Evers. Now, I've gotten to know Tony over the last couple months as we've crisscrossed the state. I've seen his resolve and his dedication to solving the problems Wisconsin faces, especially when it comes to access to quality, affordable health care, protecting our environment, and making sure that every kid in Wisconsin has a great public school, regardless of their zip code. But Tony and I can't win this election alone. We need your help to talk to those that might still be on the fence. So whatever you can do will help. Knock on doors, talk to your neighbors, talk to your family. When we're fighting to take back the state from Scott Walker and the special interests, every little bit helps. You can make the difference in this election. So visit TonyEvers.com and sign up to help. It's time for a change. And that's why Tony for Wisconsin paid for this ad.
I am sick and tired of big power brokers telling voters what's important, instead of the other way around. So, I joined the Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. It's a community of like-minded local progressives where the members help determine what issues are important. And with the aid of professional organizers and some of the top progressive strategists in Wisconsin, we make the powers that be take notice and action. We're working on fair elections, the climate crisis, immigrant rights, electing progressive candidates, and more. Plus, we have a campaign called Radioactive that supports this station and Real Resistance Radio. So, come help us reclaim our power as voters.
Become a member of the Citizen Action Organizing Co-op. Go to citizenactionwy.org.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gosted. Here are your headlines for October 18th. Republican State Representative Dale Kuyenga is denying that he was drunk during a state budget debate in 2015. He made the denial in an email message sent to conservative website. Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris are coming to Wisconsin. Senator Harris will be in Milwaukee and Madison on Sunday doing a Get Out the Vote event for the Democratic ticket, and former presidential candidate Bernie Sanders will be in Milwaukee at UWM on Monday morning. The Brewers lost to the Dodgers last night in Game 5 of the National League Championship Series. The final score is 5-2. The two teams will meet tomorrow night at Miller Park for Game 6. And the Bucks won their season opener last night, 113-112 over the Hornets in Charlotte. The home opener for the Bucks is tomorrow night against the Pacers at the new Pfizer Forum. For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Keith Gosted.
The Devil's Advocates, where there's always time for Scott Walker bashing. Hashtag Walker bashing.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Well, a disastrous day of sorts for Scotty Wanker. Less than 3 weeks to Election Day. And another one, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4 of his cabinet secretaries have now come out in opposition to his governance. 3 of them have endorsed and said they're going to go vote for Tony Evers. And Ed Wall, who's become a friend of this fine program, Dom's going to appear here again tomorrow on the big show, a little debate day preview for the Wankinator. It's not getting any better from here. So Dom, when in crisis, what do? You go to close friends. Scotty Wanker went running to righty, whitey, talk radio all up and down the inferior dial today, Dom. Didn't come here, that very unintimidated governor of ours.
Come on, Governor Walker. You can join us anytime. We'll take your call. We'll put you to the top of the list. We'll bump Bob at 844-967-2789. Before we get to the sound, Bob's been a patient guy. Let's get him in. Hey, Bob, welcome to the Devil's Advocates. What's your thought today? Hey, Bob.
One thing to say to Walker. Lock him up! Lock him up! Lock him up! All the stuff I got to say.
That's it, Bob. Just lock him up. Come on. We're a little deeper than that here. What would you like to see done? Vote him out? Find some crimes? What do you think he did?
I'm okay with Bob locking him up.
That's what.
Oh. All right, Bob. Thanks
sorry,
for the call,
Bob. We don't have a great connection. Patience, apparently not a winner today, but thanks for your call, sir. 844-967-2789. I would remind people, Dominic, it was breaking the law when Scott Walker was coordinating with third-party groups. He has a legal defense fund somewhere to the tune of $500,000. So when people say lock him up, that should be a literal. Lock his ass up. At least vote his ass out. Dom, he went running to righty whitey talk radio, not to this fine product, but to others, and you've done the homework, so why don't you call the shots?
Well, Crudy, in the letter written by 3 of the former secretary appointees of Scott Walker, they said, quote, his decision to ignore the unanimous recommendations of his own bipartisan commission on transportation finance has resulted in increased debt, delayed and canceled projects, and deteriorating highway conditions. In fact, data provided by the WIS-DOT shows that inflation-adjusted spending on highway construction is currently at its lowest it has been in 20 years. But apparently, the governor, he's not so sure about that. He has no idea what the problem is. Let's play cut number 86 on Walker on Whitey Righty Radio.
We have good roads in this state, and I hear that from people all the time. They say, I don't know what the heck they're talking about.
We got good roads in this state, man. You can hear his voice cracking. Come on, man. We know you're lying. You know you're lying. What are you talking about? Let's hear more. It's not the roads, Crudy. It's those damnable barrels. 87.
The groups running these attack ads are groups who make big money off of major interchanges in Milwaukee. And it was right over the last decade, starting with Jim Durone. We just finished off the core of the Zoo interchange to do the Marquette and the Zoo interchange. But I got to tell you, I haven't raised my kids in Wauwatosa. People in those areas are tired of all the red or orange barrels. They're tired of all the lanes going this way and that way. They're happy that the core of the Zoo interchange is completed. They don't want any massive new projects in the foreseeable future. We're able to put those dollars around the rest of the state.
They're tired of all the lanes going this way and that way? What the hell are you mumbling about, Walker?
The people don't need both east and westbound lanes. And remember, he just said the core has been completed. I like working my core every so often, Dom.
Yeah.
But you can't exclude leg days or arm days. There are appendages of the Zoo interchange that are not done, Scott Walker. Just because you say it's so doesn't mean it's true.
My lady commutes through that interchange every single day, and trust me, it ain't close to being done.
Curls for the girls. One more. Walker on Whitey Righty Radio. There's these special interest groups just want to have money spent on interchanges and not given to local governments.
Last state budget gave local governments the biggest increases they'd received in 20 years to maintain the roads and the bridges. We did similar things for our state highways. We're going to build off of that, giving historically high levels of support for our local governments to maintain roads and bridges and to maintain our state highways. We're not going to take on massive new interchanges, and that's just the difference. The groups running the ads make money off of big interchanges in places like Milwaukee. They're upset we're giving aid to local governments.
No, that's not at all true. Nobody's upset that finally 8 years into your administration, election year Walker is proposing higher aid for local municipalities to repair the local roads. No one's really upset about that, Walker, because we've got the 49th worst roads in America. I don't know what your friends at the invite-only, town hall forums are telling you, sir.
Well, his boys, in Waukesha, they drive on good roads. Well, Crudy, what's the solution? Well, according to Governor Walker, Tony Evers, he's going to raise your gas tax $100 billion. Let's go with cut 89.
They want, a big gas tax increase. That's why Tony Evers is pushing one. Heck, he said he's open to one as big as $1 a gallon. That would be $1,200 for a family with 2 vehicles in the state. That would wipe out a vacation. That would wipe out part of your college savings. That really is a fundamental difference between Tony Evers and me.
Now, let's clarify just for a minute. That would be a 12, assuming the worst about Tony Evers, which he never said, and the Journal-Sentinel polled all the Democratic primary field. What's your plan for the gas tax? Some jacknut named Crudy said, I'm going to raise it 8 cents. That was the highest number amongst all the Dem gubernatorial candidates. Tony Evers never said anything like $1. But let's let's pretend like for a minute he did, and that we saw an increase for a 2-car family of $1,200. Well, if we believe the metrics that the average 1-car family is spending, what, $700-800 additional each year because of the, the deteriorating roads in the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, maintenance and
it
service.
Would still be cheaper against 2 cars, and this is a guy saying it who had to go pick his car up from the shop earlier today.
Also, on a differing station, Walker, he's running around. Let's do cut number 3, if you would, also on the gas tax.
And when it comes to the gas tax, he said everything's on the table. He said he didn't put any limit on the size of his tax increase on gas taxes. Well, when they asked him the day after the primary, does that include $1 a gallon gas tax increase? He said everything is on the table. He's now said it's a lie. He's now said it's ridiculous, but he won't tell us exactly what he's going to raise. And when you say everything's on the table, $1 a gallon gas tax increase would cost a typical family $1,200 a year. That would wipe out a vacation. That would wipe out a good chunk of college savings. This is a guy who will raise taxes.
This is the guy who
and
will
Scott
raise
Walker,
taxes.
You have raised borrowing by about 70% for transportation in the 7 years you've been governor. You've been tossing and scooping us into the future, sir. Finishing the core, but not the appendages. Scott Walker, I mean, when you got 49th, when you're 49th in the nation in highways, when you pledged, and you got 3 former cabinet secretaries saying, you said it was all going to be about infrastructure investment, but you're a big fat liar. When 3 of your former department secretaries, cabinet level positions come out and call you a liar on this topic, Scott Walker, I know you're out there spinning it on righty whitey talk radio because you'll get no pushback, but I strongly suspect that's why you don't come here on the Devil's Advocates, because we would give you a respectful curb stomping.
86.
Rhetorically speaking.
We have good roads in this state, and I hear that from people all the time. They say, I don't know what the heck they're talking about.
You know who said that to
in this state? Who said that?
The pilot of the state airplane as they were flying over.
Let's do
They're
one more.
Good roads. They help me navigate from the air.
Yeah, let's get one more cut before we get some callers. 844-967-2789. Cut number 4, Scott Walker today.
It's going to cost us jobs. Remember back when Jim Doyle was governor? Actually, he raised taxes. We lost in his last term 133,000 jobs. 8 years ago, unemployment was over 9.3%. It was 9.3%, I should say. Now, in 2018, more people are working than ever before. We've got record low unemployment. We have more job postings than we have unemployed people to fill them in this state.
Yeah, it's all the Doyle's fault, man. It had nothing to do with a national recession. And I would argue statistically, Scott Walker, if you had done nothing, if you literally sat on your thumbs for 6 years, we would be better off today than we were when you got there.
When Jim Doyle left office, because, of course, there was a loss of jobs, the nation as a whole was losing 800,000 jobs a month under W, the last Republican, right?
Yep.
But I would point out Jim Doyle's last year, state of Wisconsin, the state of Wisconsin was 11th in the nation in job growth. The state of Wisconsin had a year of job growth that was right up with the best years that Scott Walker has had over the last 7 years, and that was at the very earliest stages of the economic recovery. We were doing just fine without Scott Walker. It was Scott Walker's Act 10 dropping the bomb on the state of Wisconsin that was disastrous for business. That's when the state of Wisconsin went off course, compared to our Midwestern neighbors in the nation as a whole. It was all due to Scott Walker's policies.
844-967-2789. Let's get some callers and let's get your perspective. Always welcome here on the Devil's Advocates. Jake from Milwaukee. You're next.
Walker's the dumbass, not you, buddy.
No, of course. I didn't think you meant me. Hey, Jake, how you doing?
Whoa, okay, let's not get on this whole dumbass thing now, okay? There's plenty of it to go around.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
Yeah, I was going to say it, but Walker can't see because he flies everywhere. So, of course, he wouldn't know about the roads. And the other thing about the roads is, once they got rid of revenue sharing, small municipalities don't have the money to fix local roads. So he may be seeing the expressways that are nice and paved, but local roads are crappier than hell. If the FCC will allow me to say that. So as far as that, it's a lot about revenue sharing, and it's not getting through. And the other thing about Jaden, or Jade, or whatever his name is.
Paul Jaden.
He just waited so he could stick the shiv into Walker. I mean, so close to the election. I mean, he's just pushing it in there. He'll be on interviews this weekend, on the shows, and all this other stuff. So
I'm not clear that this might be his only action in the short run. Now, I'm not trying to mischaracterize Jake, and we appreciate your call, but I did inquire. I did invite Paul Jaden on today's big program, and I tried two different sources who had direct connections. I tried the Evers campaign. I tried our buddy Ed Wall. Got the same no from both asks. I understand he's quite nervous. This is not within his normal course of action. The guy's been in economic development, unlike the gubernator.
Yeah, he may have some understanding of how that works. And I would just say, Mr. Jaden, we're nice people over here. We appreciate what you did, what you said. We concur, and we'd love to get into some of the details, so you can always give us a call.
But historically, he is a Republican. He was a Walker appointee, as was Ed Wall, as was Billstead, as was Mark Gottlieb. These aren't lefties saying it. These are conservatives that were conservative enough to be impaneled on the cabinet.
And concerned enough about the direction and lack of leadership under this administration to come out publicly, and that takes some spine. 844-967-2789. Let's get one more in before the break. Pete from Milwaukee, you are next. Thanks for calling. What do you got?
Yes, I drive across the city and around the area almost every day, except for the weekends, and oh my God, it's been hard to get across. I'm telling you, there's construction here, construction there, changes. I mean, it's like a nightmare. This guy, if he thinks that the roads are in good shape, well, I got a bridge I'd love to sell him. That guy, and the other guy's right. When you're in a plane, everything looks pretty good, And
as long as the runway's smooth, he thinks it's all smooth sailing.
That's right. That's right. Scotty is in denial, and it's not a river in Egypt.
Amen, Pete. Thanks for the call, man.
We are the Devil's Advocates radio show. Scott Walker, there's more sound, Dom. Some of it we got to play. I mean, I realize no one wants to eat their broccoli. No one wants to be tortured by the nasally monotone fictions of Scott Walker, but I think it's very important. It is nearly election time, and we've got to make it abundantly clear, not for the hardcore lefties or the righties that don't believe anything. Just ask Scott Walker. The roads are great. We're trying to talk to you impressionable swing independents, the reasonable people out there in the state of Wisconsin. Do you drive on the roads? Do you notice the Scott holes? Come on, it's not just us and Wisco Paul. I feel pretty confident the roads are getting bad out there. What Pete call them? Crappy? Come back with us. Don't be a dumbass. All harsh language, as long as it's FCC compliant. Welcome here. More Walker sounds, some Leah Vukmer bashing, and more of you on the phones at 844-967-2789.
All right.
We have good roads in this state.
I'm Brian Stile. I was born and raised in southeast Wisconsin. It's my home. I approve this message because from agriculture to high-tech manufacturing, we work every day to move Wisconsin forward. We all want our communities to thrive, so the next generation has the opportunity for good-paying jobs, like it used to be. I'm Brian Stile, and you can count on me to always put you and your family first.
Paid for by Stile for Wisconsin, Inc.
Do you own a rental property, or would you like to partner with a rental investment team? Call the pros you can trust at CCL Management. Rental expertise second to none, a general contractor on staff to direct repairs and improvements, and real estate brokerage services tailored to the small investor. If you're ready to invest in rental property or just need professionals to manage your real estate portfolio, call us, CCL Management, at 608-833-0009 or visit us on the web at cclmanagement.com.
I'm Andy Buck, Field Representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job performed by skilled workers who care about safety, training, and finishing strong. Workers who are reliable and ready on demand. Let IUPAT provide the people power that you need. You'll feel confident the job is finished right. Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
Have a drink at Regano's Roman Coin. This neighborhood corner tavern is as classic as the street it occupies. Family owned and operated since 1966, Regano's Roman Coin is located in a former Pabst Tide House on historic Brady Street, serving an array of craft beers with a focus on Wisconsin breweries. Also, weekly drink specials, trivia on Wednesdays, seasonal sporting events, parties hosted for all occasions, and pet friendly. Open 11 a.m. Tuesday through Friday, 10 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, closed on Monday. Regano's Roman Coin, Milwaukee's pet friendly, cash only order and classic corner tavern.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looked so good.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, streaming on YouTube, Facebook, on Twitter at Devil Radio, the party line. Toll free, talk or text, 844-967-2789. Got a few holy, let's get to them. Betsy, you are next. Thanks for calling. Betsy, what do you got today?
Hey, you guys.
Hey, Betsy.
Yeah, Scott Walker is, I don't know where he thinks that our roads are fine. They're not fine at all. I mean, I just took a road trip out to Broadhead. 14, 104. I mean, it's just all patch.
Yeah.
they just patch the potholes, and they're big holes. I mean,
have you,
with all the
Betsy,
flooding.
Have you driven on the Beltline Highway in Madison 12 and 18 lately?
Yes.
It's terrible. I mean, the whole thing is packed with, I realize we live in the state of Wisconsin. There's expansion and contraction with the change of the seasons. But that road is terrible. And that's not even an old road. I mean, that's what happens. It takes constant investment and care to keep your infrastructure in good shape. And this guy doesn't get it because he'd rather, hold to a Grover Norquist pledge of no new taxes and, keep his fleeting presidential ambitions for the future alive than actually do something to solve the problem.
I don't think that's it. I think he wants to privatize our roads. I think he wants to make us Indiana. I think he's got the Mike Pence plan. I think since he's become governor, that we've become Mississippi. I can't believe it, that anyone would even think to vote for this governor. We've given him a chance. My mother voted for him in the recall because she thought that he needed to have a chance. Well, he's had his chance, and all he's done is just give to the top corporate, and then let people just go and, that lady in Fox River who just went ahead and dredged up everything. I mean, they could just, that trout farm, that creek, he's done so much damage to the state, the CAFOs, the farmers that are all going out of business, the Medicaid money, the IRS program. I mean, oh my God, it's just rattling off my tongue.
Well, Betsy, when you line them all up like that, it sounds pretty bad. Thanks for the call. We always appreciate it. 844-967-2789. I
was kind of proud of Betsy's little rant there. She got on a little roll.
And there's more to that list. Let's keep going. Annie from Watertown, you will be next. Hey, Annie, welcome to the show. What do you got?
Hey, Annie.
Well, she put it right succinctly, because if you would go to counties that voted for Scott Walker and are good Republican counties, your roads would be just fine.
Oh, you think they're parsing it out and giving the money out to the supporters?
Well, isn't that the way he's worked?
I know Foxconn found some money for some improved highways. Hell, they're going to get autonomous vehicle lanes, are they not?
Yeah, where the money goes.
So what do you think when you hear Scott Walker? You have that clip again. I want to hear it. This is amazing that about the roads. Oh, nothing wrong with the roads. I think it's 86. What do you hear? What do you think when you hear him talking about this? And we know the rankings of these roads nationally are terrible. We drive on them every single day. What does Scott Walker think?
We have good roads in this state, and I hear that from people all the time. They say, I don't know what the heck they're talking about.
Yeah, Annie, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about.
You put it. How better could you put it? He doesn't drive on the roads. He flies over them. Get it?
I get it, Annie. Thanks for the call.
I'm not sure that he's driven since he was running for governor the first time around, driving around in the Saturn. Fine automobile that it was, cooler full of ham sandwiches and cranberry juice on the seat.
844-967-2789. Mark, you are next. Thanks for calling today. What do you got?
Well, that time I filled up with gas the other night, and Scott Walker appeared knocking on the, from inside the gas pump, and I almost would have paid $12 more a gallon just to have him off and not have to look at him. It's ridiculous that Tony, he's saying that Tony Evers is going to do this. When Tony Evers, that Scott Walker is just being disingenuous when Tony says everything is on the table. He means he's going to look at the whole thing. It's better than the borrow and spend mentality that Scott Walker and most other Republicans have, because that's just increasing our debt service costs, for our children and our grandchildren, for goodness sake.
Oh, that's their problem, Mark.
Ridiculous. Yeah, but we're supposed to.
He's not going to be the governor then anyways.
Right.
Well, hopefully he's not the governor in January.
Yeah.
That whenever the term of office ends, it's just, it's just objectionable that when you can't even fill up your gas tank and not be subjected to political ads. I mean, it just, there's
Mark,
a little piece someplace.
Somehow, right-wing talk radio has been a propaganda platform for Governor Scott Walker. And when you look at the impact that right-wing talk radio has on the electoral outcomes, Mark, I mean, Leah Buchmer only won one media market. It's the media market that has WISN and WTMJ. Kevin Nicholson won every other media market in the state of Wisconsin, yet Leah Buchmer is your senatorial nominee. Why is that? Right-wing talk radio. Sheriff David A. Clark Jr. won sheriff's offices time after time after time. Why was that? Because right-wing talk radio, they got out the vote. They encouraged their righties to go out and cross over in a spring primary and vote for Sheriff Clark, the Democrat, air quotes. And, of course, I forget his name. New Republic published an article. Alec McGinnis, not so many years ago, predicted the failure of Scott Walker's presidential campaign, said the only reason why Scott Walker wins the state of Wisconsin consistently is the air support he gets on righty whitey talk radio, and he's not going to have that nationally, and he's going to flounder as a presidential candidate, and I think that was pretty prescient. He sucked as a presidential candidate, just like he sucks as a governor. Come back with us. More Devil's Advocates. The happy hour starts right now.
And right now, just so it's clear, anyone with pre-existing conditions in the state of Wisconsin today is covered.
In comes the meat wagon.
We have good roads in this state.
I wish you weren't a liar.
It wasn't true. It was a Scott Walker, a Scott P. Walker. I'm Scott Kevin Walker.
Sinner.
Hi, this is Demi, pharmacist at Hyatt, locally owned pharmacy in the community of Milwaukee. Simplifying lives, one prescription at a time is our goal. Do free delivery of your medications to your home and at work. All your meds are brought together in one convenient dosage package individualized to your medication needs. We set up a house call with a licensed pharmacist to assist with medication management. We accept all insurance plans. To learn more about Hyatt, visit our website, HAYATRX.com.
The Devil's Advocates.
Tom Perez, chair of the Democratic National Committee. Scott Walker went on something of a Twitter storm, very Trumpian. What do you think this foretells for Scott Walker's future as the governor of the state of Wisconsin?
Wisconsinites have woken up. He talked about we need an optimistic message. How can you make people feel optimistic when you take away their health care? How can you make people optimistic when you take away the right to bargain? How can you make people feel optimistic when you're gerrymandering the heck out of districts?
Radio for the 99%.
You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
Saudi consequences, predator priests. I'm Barbara Cusack. For the first time, President Trump is warning there could be consequences if a connection is found between Saudi Arabia and the presumed murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who wrote for the Washington Post.
President Trump acknowledging that Jamal Khashoggi is most likely dead.
It certainly looks that way to me. It's very sad.
After hearing from his Secretary of State that the Saudis need more time, the president agrees. However, if the Saudis and perhaps the royal family are implicated in Khashoggi's death, the president going farther than before in that there will have to be consequences.
It'll have to be very severe. I mean, it's bad stuff.
Bad enough that Secretary of the Treasury Steve Mnuchin decided to cancel his plans to attend a Saudi investment conference next week. Bob Costantini, the White House.
Correspondent Steve Kastenbaum reports the Justice Department has launched a sweeping investigation into priests who sexually abused children in Pennsylvania.
Federal investigators served subpoenas to Roman Catholic dioceses across the state. The Justice Department is looking for sensitive church files and testimony from church leaders in the wake of the Pennsylvania grand jury report that documented the cover-up of 301 predatory priests over the course of decades.
President Trump threatened to close the U.S. border with Mexico as a caravan of immigrants from Central America draws near. Correspondent Jim Roop has details.
In a series of social media posts, the president stated that in addition to stopping all money paid to Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador, he'll order the U.S. military to the border with Mexico and shut it down unless Mexico can, quote, stop this onslaught, end quote. An estimated 4,000 people from the so-called Northern Triangle, ranked as one of the most violent regions in the world, left Honduras for the U.S. last week.
Stocks dropped, the Dow down 327 points, the S&P 500 off by 40, and the Nasdaq took a 158-point dive. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Brad Zog, owner of Zero Res Madison. Brad, why should people use Zero Res Madison?
Why wouldn't you clean your carpets like this? We've got a patented system. We also do another step that most people don't do. We have a double rotating brush machine that we use when we pre-treat the carpet. So this helps dig up any of that stuff that's deeper in your carpet that the vacuum doesn't get. We're going to provide that intermediary step before we clean with our empowered water.
Call Zero Res today, 608-848-9000. Zero Res. Spell it forward or backward. It's the right way to clean.
Hi, I'm State Representative Jocasta Zamaripa, and I need you to vote and make your voice heard in this election. Vote for your health care. Vote for your schools. Vote for your neighborhood. Vote for change and hope instead of division and fear. And starting Monday, September 24th, skip the line and vote early. Go to myvote.wi.gov for more information on your polling place. And thank you for being a voter.
Paid for by Ford with Jocasta.
Investors. Florida Animal Preserve is offering a reward for help in recovering a gray wolf that got away when Hurricane Michael blew through.
A video posted on Facebook, the co-owner of the Seacrest Wolf Preserve issued what she says is a desperate plea for help in finding the 16-year-old escapee. Tahane is part of the preserve's educational ambassador programs, and Cynthia Watkins says he won't hurt anyone.
Please, first of all, do not shoot him. The idea that some lives matter less than others is the root of all the evil in this world.
Watkins says a big oak tree fell on Tahane's enclosure during the storm, so he's really stressed, running for his life. But they're hopeful with the public's help, he'll be back home soon. I'm Jan Johnson.
Boston Red Sox head into Game 5 of the American League Championship Series against the Houston Astros tonight, one win away from their first trip to the World Series since winning the title in 2013. I'm Barbara Cusack.
Here in the Badger State, we have our own expressions. When we're looking to go on vacation, we state, well, let's go up north. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters Local 200. Here in the Badger State, we also have another expression, union yes. The strength of the labor movement depends on elected officials here in Wisconsin and Washington, D.C. that support the values of working families that raise the standards for all. Give us a call at Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit our website at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook at Teamsters Local 200. Be engaged.
180 over 111, and I had a stroke. I couldn't speak or walk.
This is high blood pressure. Get back on your plan. Go to loweryourhbp.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association, American Medical Association, and the Ad Council.
5 Nines, your local single-source IT solutions provider.
specializing in cloud technology, consulting, servers, networks, and hosting. We manage your IT so you can focus on running your business. Enjoy technology. Enjoy59s.com.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gosted. Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris are coming back to Wisconsin. Senator Harris from California will be in Milwaukee and Madison on Sunday doing Get Out the Vote events for the Democratic ticket. And former presidential candidate Senator Bernie Sanders will be in Milwaukee at UWM on Monday morning for a rally with Tammy Baldwin and Tony Evers. He'll then be in Kenosha Monday afternoon to do an event with Randy Bryce and the Working Families Party. To register for the rallies with Bernie, go to events.berniesanders.com. The rally will be at UWM and will be broadcast live here on Real Resistance Radio Monday morning beginning at about 9 a.m. Forecast for Milwaukee and Madison: Thursday, sunshine, highs in the upper 50s. Tonight, clear skies, lows in the mid 40s. For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Keith Gosted.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves' corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We are sliding into the 5 o'clock happy hour, Dom. And today is debate eve. We got a gubernatorial debate. We got a senatorial debate. And we got a CD1 debate on Friday night. And perhaps more importantly, a Brewer game that will preempt all of those debates for most of the Milwaukee listening area, Dom. But anyways, maybe we'll find time to play them out, in the dead zone on the Sunday afternoon during the bye week when everyone's at the pumpkin patch.
Perhaps, Crudy. I know a lot of people are going to be watching the Brewers, but, if nothing else, if you can't find the time, can't find the video, just go back and read the transcripts.
Or something like that. Just vote Dem. Skip the debates. Vote Dem. Dominic, the topic of pre-existing conditions. Healthcare, perhaps the number one issue, not just in the state of Wisconsin, but all around the nation. And Scott Walker, to my opinion, has been on the wrong side of healthcare since day one. This is a guy who gave back the federal money. We would have been one of the early implementation states on the federal exchanges. Scott Walker gave back the money. So when he, complains about the Obamacare website crashing, understand he sent back the money that could have been used to hire better vendors and set it up more competently for the citizens of the great state of Wisconsin. Scott Walker, of course, has refused to expand Medicaid. And most importantly, Dom, Scott Walker has opposed Obamacare ACA at every step, has failed the citizens in a variety of ways, but most importantly, failed to be empathetic, failed to be a human being, a Christian soul. Scott Walker has failed the people of Wisconsin, and now he's out there lying about it.
Lying? What are you talking about, Crudy? He has personal experience on pre-existing conditions. Walker today must be feeling the heat, as we mentioned in the last hour. Another former secretary has come out against Scott Walker, calling him, all sorts of things, being very critical of his governance. So Walker today must have known this is coming down. He gets on whitey, righty radio, Crudy, and he, all over the board today, not on this fine show, but he gets out and jumps on this pre-existing condition. Now, I would also say he's been doing these little videos and putting them up on the social medias. Him
from the back of the bus,
looking at the camera, talking about how important it is to cover people with pre-existing conditions. Well, this is a storyline he continues to push. Let's start today. Walker on Right Wing Radio, Cut 7.
We can protect everyone with pre-existing conditions in Wisconsin without protecting the failure that is Obamacare.
Oh, there's your line.
And Tony Evers and Tammy Ball and anybody else involved in this needs to just stop with the scare tactics. For me, like a lot of families in this state, it's personal. My wife, Tonette, is a type 1 diabetic. My mother is a survivor of breast cancer. My brother has a heart condition. Like many people listening and many others across the state, this is a very personal issue to our family. And I want to make it clear that in Wisconsin right now, everyone living with a pre-existing condition is covered. And as long as I'm governor, they will always be covered in the state of Wisconsin. The reason why Tony Evers and Tammy Baldwin and a whole slew of people across the nation want to distort the facts and flat out lie.
And flat out lie. Everybody else is lying, Crudy. We're covered with pre-existing conditions here in the state of Wisconsin. And as long as Governor Walker remains governor, he will commit to you, everybody, that it will continue to be that way.
Isn't Governor Walker, through his attorney general and this lawsuit in the Texas courts, isn't Governor Walker suing to roll back the pre-existing condition protections? I mean, that is the specific gist of the lawsuit. And then by extension, they want the entire ACA thrown out, baby with the bathwater. And if Scott Walker shepherded, pushed through the courts that change, that throwing out of the ACA, there would be no pre-existing condition protections for Wisconsin residents. He can say it would be the case, but he was contradicted earlier this week by his own Senate Majority Leader. Scott Fitzgerald said, we don't have the votes, came back later in the day without telling us how he, found some votes? Or got a call from the boss, got a call from Scott Walker saying, it's time to lie. It's election time. Just go out there and back me up on this. The truth doesn't matter. I'm going to right-wing talk radio. You go tell people you found the votes and it would probably pass.
As mentioned, Molly Beck in the Journal Sentinel, Crudy, specifically. Here's the quote from Fitzgerald. I know I got members who were probably not on board, which is one of the reasons it wasn't something we tackled at the end of the session. And as you mentioned, Crudy, he came back later on Tuesday and said he supports existing coverage of pre-existing conditions. If it becomes necessary to cover them in the future, the Senate would pass a bill to do so. Now, he made the statement, but he did not clarify that he has the votes or that anybody changed their minds.
Or the will. There's no will. I mean, I've heard Republicans talking about repeal and replace Obamacare. Where's the replacement plan? There's no will. Republicans have no will to cover pre-existing conditions. Scott Walker is effectively just lying. Do we have more sound?
Yeah, we do. We have a couple more. And again, Walker on tour of right-wing radio today. Concerned. Got to go to, get the air support out. Talking about pre-existing conditions on the other. Can you believe it? We have more than one righty whitey talk radio program in the city. Damn, that's too many. Here's cut 80.
I want to be clear. We can protect people with pre-existing conditions in the state and not have to protect the failure that is Obamacare. And it's a nationally coordinated effort where they try to tie the two together. That's just not the case. In Wisconsin today, everyone living with a pre-existing condition is covered. As long as I'm governor, they always will be.
That's, again, not true. They're only covered because of the protections of Obamacare. And you're suing to eliminate those protections. And you don't have the votes, or why haven't you passed a just-in-case bill just in case?
But Crudy, remember, he's got family members, cut 81.
Like a lot of families, it's personal to me. A lot of your listeners right now can relate to this. My wife is a type 1 diabetic. Tonette's a type 1 diabetic. My mom is a cancer survivor. She's overcame breast cancer, and my brother, David, my younger brother, has a heart condition. So we know what it's like to have pre-existing conditions. For us, it's personal. And for a lot of families across the state, we will always cover people with pre-existing conditions in the state.
Now, did we always cover people with pre-existing conditions in the state, Crudy?
Hell no.
Hell to the no.
Very personal for my family because my family was personally affected by this fiction that somehow we had it all right and then Obamacare screwed it up. Dom, before we go to break, and I know it's about time, I would just point out, PolitiFact Wisconsin today rated a statement by Tony Evers. I'm going to read you the conclusion from PolitiFact. Evers said Walker supports a health care plan that would gut protections for pre-existing conditions. Walker has supported 2 efforts that would result in the elimination of blanket protections for pre-existing conditions. Legislation to repeal the Affordable Care Act and a lawsuit that would block it. The law provides a variety of protections to people with pre-existing medical conditions, including prohibiting insurers from denying coverage to those people and prohibiting them from charging those people higher rates. So getting rid of Obamacare would eliminate those protections. Walker has pledged that if Obamacare is repealed, we just heard him say it twice, Tom, he would seek legislation to guarantee coverage to people with pre-existing conditions. But it's not clear how that legislation would compare to Obamacare, and it's not clear if it could pass the legislature. For a statement that's accurate but needs clarification, our rating is mostly true. Again, the mostly true statement of Tony Evers is that Walker supports a health care plan that would gut protections for pre-existing conditions. So when Scott Walker says it's personal, he's lying through his teeth. It might seem personal. He's got his government health care for his type 1 diabetic mom and his wife and his mom who's a breast cancer survivor and the brother with the heart condition. But what about for the rest of Wisconsin families? For those of us that don't have the sweet golden health care plan that the governor of the state of Wisconsin and his family get, you know, families like mine, families with a kid with autism, and I would point out Leah Vukmer personally made an effort to block the autism mandate in the state of Wisconsin. People ask me sometimes, why are you so political, Crudy? Why is this so personal to you? Well, the issue that drove me to this place was pre-existing conditions of my son. He's got autism. Leah Vukmer, she blocked the autism mandate. I'm going to tell that story when we come back. More Devil's Advocates Real Resistance Radio.
And right now, just so it's clear, anyone with pre-existing conditions in the state of Wisconsin today is covered.
Bring out your date!
Just because he says it doesn't make it true.
No! Yes. Yeah, a bit. Run away!
We don't need to imagine the challenges our state faces. We live them every day. This is former State Representative Mandela Barnes. I'm running to be your next Lieutenant Governor. And whether it's more access to affordable health care, or clean water, or better jobs, or wanting the best schools for our kids, there's only one candidate for governor who will get results: Tony Evers. That's what Tony's done as a teacher and as state superintendent of public schools. I've seen Tony's character and his passion to do what's right for kids. I've seen Tony Evers listen to the concerns and problems of people around the state, and I've worked with him to find solutions to those problems. Isn't that what we need? 8 years is enough of Scott Walker and his failed politics of division. We need a governor who cares about all of us. We need a governor who's concerned about the next generation, not just the next election. It's time for a change. That's why Tony for Wisconsin paid for this ad.
I'm Andy Buck, Field Representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job performed by skilled workers who care about safety, training, and finishing strong. Workers who are reliable and ready on demand. Let IUPAT provide the people power that you need. You'll feel confident the job is finished right. Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
The Resistance is live 7 days a week here on Real Resistance Radio. Tune in Sundays for Meet the Press with Chuck Todd from 11 a.m. to noon. Then it's the Best of the Forum with Sherwin Hughes from 12 to 3 p.m. And Citizen Action's Battleground Wisconsin rages from 3 to 4 p.m. Get your groove on with Stu Man PM, Politics and Music 4 to 6 p.m. with Stu Daniels. Mandatory listening, always streaming at realresistanceradio.com.
The Devil's Advocates. Never personal, only politics.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show on Real Resistance Radio. You can join us on the lines. It's happy hour at 844-967-2789.
You know, Dom, we say it's never personal, only politics, but sometimes it gets really personal. And it is galling to me when the governor of the state of Wisconsin makes the false representation that he somehow has kids like mine, kids and people with pre-existing conditions in mind, when he is suing to remove the protections for people with pre-existing conditions. Democratic Party of the state of Wisconsin dropped a press release yesterday, shook the cobwebs on a memory. Oh yeah, why am I so damn political in the first place? Well, it was about the autism mandate. When my son was about 2 years old, diagnosed with autism. Now, 12 years later, he's doing great. He's in high school. He has become very verbal. He's a great kid. I love my son. But children that do not receive care, they don't move forward. They don't proceed. In fact, they don't even plateau. Children with autism that do not receive the intensive care they need when they're young, they often regress. I had seen a son who was verbal, could say mom and dad, could say different words. He lost his ability to verbalize the D. He had lost his words. And this is happening to my kid, and we see it in real time. We knew something was wrong. Well, about the same time, Crudy gets the bright idea, I'm going to leave my long-term employment. I'm going to throw up my own shingle. I'm going to create enough flexibility by opening up my own shop. I'm going to be able to be home for the family, help my wife, because suddenly my kid's got a different teacher / medical person coming to the house every 2 hours. I mean, this kid's going through therapy 8 hours a day. An adult has to be in the home. My wife needed the help. I went self-employed. And what do you know? Like many self-employed people, feeling the pinch, feeling the cash flow pinch, I missed a COBRA payment on the exorbitant insurance premiums I was paying for my kid. And my wife was ready to divorce me because we quickly learned you could not insure my child, my son, because of his pre-existing condition. So when I made applications for insurance, when I approached the brokers and I said, I need insurance for my family, and they said, you cannot insure your kid. And if you put your child on the insurance in the individual market, then you cannot insure your entire family. I lost the ability to provide affordable health care, the assurance and protection of health insurance. I've been paying premiums my entire life. You miss a premium, they kick you off, and in fact, they find a rationale not to give you insurance again. So, last night, I find this DPW press release. The headline, Leah Buchmer sided with insurers to block autism coverage. I'm going to read from the presser. Today, Wisconsin healthcare professionals gathered outside the Children's Hospital of Wisconsin in Wauwatosa to highlight Republican U.S. Senate candidate Leah Buchmer's record of repeatedly siding with insurance companies over Wisconsinites in need of healthcare coverage. At the event, the healthcare professionals drew attention to Buchmer in 2007, blocking two separate bills that would have required insurance companies to cover Wisconsinites' autism treatments. First, Buchmer used her position as chair of the Assembly Committee on Health and Healthcare Reform to block and ultimately kill 2007 Assembly Bill 417, a bill to require health insurance coverage of treatment for autism spectrum disorders, without so much as holding a hearing, a vote, or a hearing on the measure. Then, Buchmer worked to sabotage 2007 Senate Bill 178, a bipartisan bill. I would point out, Dom, that bill passed the Senate, a scored bill, 27-4. A bipartisan bill in the truest sense. And Leah Buchmer helped kill it when it came to the floor of the Assembly. I continue from the press release, a bipartisan bill that passed the Senate to expand autism treatment coverage, ultimately voting to table and kill it. Now, I would point out, Leah Buchmer, she's a nurse, and she'd throw herself in front of a bus before she'd ever see Wisconsinites without pre-existing condition protections. But Leah Buchmer, in reality, in practice, Nurse Ratchet was the primary reason why kids like mine could not have health care insurance in the state of Wisconsin. She didn't want the poor insurance companies to have to carry the tab for the $30,000 to $60,000 per year that sort of intensive treatment costs for a young kid with autism. So my family paid it out of pocket. And my family damn near went to the poorhouse because, you know, who's got an extra $60,000 a year laying around for private care? But the alternative was to see my kid regress further, to see him not expand and have an outlook that we could hope and promise for him. And I'm sorry if I'm getting a little emotional, but this is very personal to me because I lived this. And I personally advocated with Governor Jim Doyle. Jim Doyle came to my house. Jim Doyle did Ring Around the Rosie in my basement with my kid. We did a press conference in my living room. We took this to the state legislature. We went through, we advocated, we lobbied, we cajoled. I didn't get paid. Jim Doyle, not always my favorite governor of the state of Wisconsin, but on this issue, he was absolutely right. And let's not forget, if the insurance companies will not pay for the treatment of these kids, you know who ultimately does? The taxpayers of the state of Wisconsin. If you don't take care, I mean, I'm not saying these kids can fully recover, but they can get a long way along life's road. They can be much more functioning as adults if you take care of them when they need the treatment. The failure to do so, in fact, balloons the expenditure to the state of Wisconsin because eventually we, the taxpayers, have to pay for the housing of these disabled adults because they don't have the opportunities vocationally or otherwise. They didn't get the care they needed when they were children. And Leah Vukmer made it her personal job to block this autism mandate. And I watched it happen. I watched on West Side. They didn't do it in the transparency of daylight. They did this at like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I often held Mike Hipsch accountable because Mike Hipsch was the one that actually tabled the vote over on the assembly side, the speaker at that time. But Leah Vukmer was the committee chair that helped do it. And Leah Vukmer, the supposed nurse that would throw herself in front of a bus, well, Leah Vukmer, I wish you would hurry up and do it. Because any human being that would block the care for 2, 3, 4-year-old kids that need treatment now, not later, not 18 months, 2 years from now when you get a waiver, they need the care now. And Leah Vukmer, you would take us back there. Your opposition to ACA Obamacare is going to put a kid like mine right back to where we were.
Mike, how did you, I know this is incremental steps, but how did your son eventually get his insurance?
Well, my son eventually got insurance because the autism mandate was eventually jammed into the Wisconsin state budget.
Before that, how was he insured before that?
Eventually, he became Medicaid eligible through his disability.
Eligible.
So if he'd have gotten hit by a car, I could have taken him to the hospital. But in terms of the actual autism-specific treatment he needed, no, we paid for that out of pocket. That came from our resources. We cashed out our 401k. We sold properties. We did what we could do to afford to give care to our kids just like anybody does. So, Scott Walker, don't tell me about your wife's diabetes. Don't tell me about your mom or your brother. Let me tell you about my kid. And let me tell you, you've got malicious, bad intent. And I'm not going to sit by and listen to you lie about it and not call your ass out each and every day. Scott Walker, you are the worst son of a bitch. And Leah Vukmer, you're right there with them. This is something they did to children, and they did it with malice and forethought. More Devil's Advocates. Will be right back.
I'm Senator Leah Vukmer.
Oh, good for you. Run away!
The Devil's Advocates.
Tom Perez, chair of the Democratic National Committee. You know, Tom, I didn't know you had all the Badger roots. I got a little hashtag. I'd like to try it out on you. DNC MKE 2020, sir. What do you think, Milwaukee, for the DNC, Tom?
They are one of the cities that has expressed interest. Obviously, the new arena is going to be open and running by them. And I'm sure they will put forth a very, very credible package.
Well, Tom, it's nice that the stadium will be opening up, but also last year on the east side of Milwaukee, the Devil's Advocates and WRRD opened their stations on Brady Street.
Bring it home, Tom.
Wow. Amen. Well, I stayed up all night the night before my wedding, so I went out to a lot of watering holes not too far from there.
You're supposed to skip a night between the bachelor party and the wedding, sir.
I didn't get the memo. I wish we had done this interview 30 years ago.
Making radio great again.
It's hard to dream when you're fighting for 15. This is Pizza Box Mike for Wisconsin's Resistance Radio. Check out fightfor15.org to get involved in the fight for 15.
I'm Brian Stile. I was born and raised in southeast Wisconsin. It's my home. I approve this message because from agriculture to high-tech manufacturing, we work every day to move Wisconsin forward. We all want our communities to thrive so the next generation has the opportunity for good-paying jobs, like it used to be. I'm Brian Stile, and you can count on me to always put you and your family first.
Paid for by Stile for Wisconsin, Inc.
On marijuana, unfortunately, as a public health issue and a public safety issue, I've opposed that.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta, how can medical marijuana help those addicted to opioids?
There's three big things. There's clear consensus now that cannabis can treat pain. That is not an opinion. That is a consensus conclusion by big scientific bodies like the National Academy of Science. We also know that it can help treat the withdrawal symptoms of opioids. People, they don't want to be on them anymore. They want to quit, but they develop the terrible withdrawal symptoms. And now we have evidence that it can actually help heal the part of the brain that is diseased in someone who's an opioid addict. If you had to start from scratch and design a substance to help lead us out of the opioid epidemic, like in a lab, it would probably look very much like cannabis.
Call Governor Scott Walker at 608-266-1212. Tell him good people do smoke marijuana. This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org, p4ppc.org.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Join the resistance against dirty carpets. Call Zero Res Madison today for our summer special. Clean and sanitize 3 rooms for only $139. Call 608-848-9000 or schedule online at ZeroResMadison.com. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
For Real Resistance Radio, my name is Keith Gosted. Here are your headlines for October 18th. Republican State Representative Dale Koyenga is denying that he was drunk during a state budget debate in 2015. He made the denial in an email message sent to conservative website. Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris are coming to Wisconsin. Senator Harris will be in Milwaukee and Madison on Sunday doing a Get Out the Vote event for the Democratic ticket, and former presidential candidate Bernie Sanders will be in Milwaukee at UWM on Monday morning. The Brewers lost to the Dodgers last night in Game 5 of the National League Championship Series. The final score is 5-2. The two teams will meet tomorrow night at Miller Park for Game 6. And the Bucks won their season opener last night, 113-112 over the Hornets in Charlotte. The home opener for the Bucks is tomorrow night against the Pacers at the new Pfizer Forum. For Real Resistance Radio, I'm Keith Gosted.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone.
The Devil's Advocates. We drink when we toast. We toast when we drink.
Streets are uneven.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We're in the midst of the happy hour. I wish I had a cold one in the broadcast bunker with me, Dom. I know I get a little emotional on the topic of my son, but
justifiably so, Michael.
It is very bothersome to me to hear the false claims of Leah Vukmir and Scott Walker. I mean, knowing that Vukmir was the one that voted against the autism mandate, that she had an instrumental part in blocking coverage for my kid for at least a year or more, when it was the right thing to do and it was supported in a bipartisan fashion, and it was the right thing to do for Wisconsin taxpayers. And the only plausible explanation, why did Leah do it? Because she's getting paid by the insurance industry to do it. Why did Hipsch do it? Because he's getting paid by the insurance industry to do it. And why did Scott Walker sue to take away our pre-existing condition coverages? Because he's blindly ambitious, and he still thinks somewhere in the back of his crooked little inhumane brain that he's going to run for president someday, and this is a political winner, because you remember all the Tea Party rallies in 2010, Dom. It was all about hatred for Obamacare. Well, maybe people don't like it when you call it Obamacare, but they sure as hell like it when their kid gets coverage that they used to be denied.
And, Crudy, this is one of the things that you have brought me around on. You know, certainly you and I have been friends for 25 years, and when this started impacting you and your family and we were talking about it, you know, as a relatively healthy guy, and I didn't, you know, have any these kinds of issues, didn't really use the health care services and the insurance that I had much, and didn't have much thought about it. To hell with it, right? But I didn't know that you could be denied for a pre-existing condition 10 years ago, dude. You know what I'm saying? And this is one of the things, because if you're not aware of it and you don't know it and you don't seek out and find the knowledge, it's hard to come with that knowledge. And you educated me on this issue, Crudy. You brought me around. I see no reason why we should not have, as a functioning representative republic, laws on the books that we currently have that doesn't allow these huge insurance companies to stick it to everybody so it can make their spreadsheets work. This is about them making money and not. This is about the politicians of the state of Wisconsin, like Vukmir and Walker and Schimmel, working for, essentially, the insurance company so they can keep their profits fat. Because if you got to pay out, if you got to cover pre-existing conditions, well, your bottom line is going to drop. And what happens then?
So sad.
Then you allow these insurance companies, if we didn't have it the way it is now, and if Governor Walker is successful in this, they will allow people with pre-existing conditions to get what? Totally raped with the premiums. At the end of the day, they'll pay every
if you can find coverage.
If you can find the coverage.
If you can find coverage.
And then they'll suck you dry. And once they suck you dry, they'll stick you onto Medicaid, and then what? The taxpayers pay for it. So once again, they continue to squeeze the profits. They socialize the loss and they privatize the profits. That is not a winning formula for the citizens. It might work short term for people like Vukmir and Walker, but that is certainly not representing the citizens of this country, the only industrialized country in the world that does not have coverage for their citizens. It's time to change all of that.
Dominic, if we have time, I'm going to throw out a piece from the Urban Milwaukee Online Daily. This is not even good politics. This lawsuit flies in the face, not just of the desire of liberals and lefties and Democrats and independents, but hell, even Republicans are supportive of protecting those with pre-existing conditions right here in the state of Wisconsin. That's about 2.4 million people, according to this article, Bruce Thompson, you know, the data wonk. 67% of Republicans support protecting pre-existing condition coverage. Perhaps we'll get to that, but let's get to the phones first. 844-967-2789.
Tom from Cedarburg, you are up. Thanks for calling, Tom. What are your thoughts today?
Hey, Tom.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to say that I think this election cycle, like no others I've ever seen in my life, are really showing the cruel side of the truly rich robber barons and the bought and paid for politicians, what their really intentions are. And I wanted to say too, Crudy, that I'm glad for the personal touch that you gave, in the last segment about your life and stuff like that.
I wish I'd have been a little more articulate. I get emotional sometimes.
It was good, really good. I also wanted to say that I'm so glad that you guys are a balancing voice on the radio versus the 80 or 90, whatever right-wing stations are in this state. Really glad you guys are on. And I wanted to say, too, Curdy, go get them.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it, man. Go get them, Crudy. And you're rightfully passionate.
I cannot go get them, but I did offer a little debate advice to the Tony Evers campaign today. It was via text through the campaign manager. I'm not sure if it will be heeded, but I had a little advice to offer to my buddy Tony Evers, and, I'll share it for the audience. When Scott Walker starts lying about how much he cares about pre-existing conditions, interrupt him right then and there. Stop right now. Stop the lie, Scott Walker. I mean, Tony, do not let him off the hook. Do not play Wisconsin nice. Do not be polite and allow him to finish his fiction. You got to call him out as a liar right then and there And I think ultimately Scott Walker would get flummoxed. Scott Walker would start stuttering, and he would back down.
844-967-2789. Pete from Milwaukee, you will be next. Thanks for calling, Pete. What do you got?
Well, if they did, or if they were really serious about having another plan, it would be out there. I mean, Obamacare has been in existence for a long time, and we haven't heard about any kind of plan for a replacement. So they're asking people to ditch what they have and just, look behind curtain number 4. What are you going to get there,
Yeah, trust them, Pete. All you got to do is trust them. Leah Vukmir would lay in front of a truck before she'd allow that to happen, right? But she was.
She ran in front of mine, Crudy, and I ran her over 18 times. Come on.
Thanks for the call, Pete. There she was.
I wish she would be a speed bump right out there on Brady Street. I'd be hauling ass up and down the street myself.
What is it about,
rhetorically speaking,
Vukmir's position? What is it about? The environment that has changed Vukmir's position. She was instrumental in stopping coverage of the autism mandate, Crudy, dealing with a pre-existing condition. But now we're supposed to believe that she's, seen the light? And that somehow her and the Republicans and Scott Walker, they all believe that, pre-existing conditions, they're always going to be covered as long as I'm governor. But here's the problem. Where was that passion and that thought process when you became governor? Was that the first thing on your mind? Did you think, wow, there's millions of people in my state that have pre-existing conditions that are getting screwed over by the insurance companies? I got to do something about it. Was that what dropping the bomb was? That's not what it was. You didn't address it. This wasn't even brought up until we had to face the realities of the Affordable Care Act. And now you see that a majority of Republicans, 67%, Crute, think that pre-existing conditions should be covered. And now it's an issue. Now you're the pre-existing condition governor. It's a fallacy. It's a joke. It's a farce. And it's see-through.
844-967-2789. Other callers holding?
Let's get Spike on. Hey, Spike, welcome to the show. What do you got today?
How you doing, Spike?
Listen, I had to get in on this. You're absolutely correct. The Democrats have to stop being too damned nice. They have to start calling a lie a lie. Stop being polite, and like I say, stop waiting for them to finish their point. Jump right in and say, no, that is a lie. From the pre-existing conditions to the roads that you were talking about, to Walker's initial lie about the state being too broke to be able to keep paying for education, and on and on and on. And until the Democrats stop being polite and start calling them out, they're going to keep losing.
Well, Spike, I would say on this particular topic, pre-existing conditions, I mean, if I think I've got credibility, Tony Evers has got tons of credibility. He is a cancer survivor in his own right. Tony knows what it was like to be a guy with a pre-existing condition, and not so many years ago, Spike, of course, Tony Evers would be uninsurable unless he was in a group policy. But if he tried to throw up his own shingle and go into private practice, Tony Evers would be uninsurable under the old pre-Obamacare plan, or his premiums would be so expensive it would be ludicrous for him to think he could possibly pay the insurance premium, Spike.
Absolutely. And, you know, this is something that he's going to have to do in these debates when he has the big stage with the entire state, if not watching at the time, then maybe watching it on YouTube or something.
C-SPAN replay late at night.
Exactly. That's what I'm going to do. But, I mean, again, you know, they can't be polite about it, man. They cannot be polite. The Republicans are not polite. They come out with their lies, their points, their talking points, which are lies, and they keep repeating them, and they keep repeating them until people start believing them as truth. Democrats have to start coming out just as hard with the damn truth, and they have to come out just as nasty as the Republicans, just as hard as the Republicans, just as often as the Republicans, or they're not going to win.
Well said, Spike.
844-967-2789. Let's get one more in this segment. Our pal, Wisco Paul, you're up. Hey, Paul, what do you got today?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Walker's like that chameleon, I think. The things that are in a jungle that change colors, he's now changing from red to blue, but it's not quite blue. I don't know what color that is. Is that purple or I don't know.
Hey, Paul, I got a little long-distance dedication for you.
We have good roads in this state, and I hear that from people all the time. They say, I don't know what the heck they're talking about.
I think he's talking to you, Paul.
Yeah, he wouldn't know. He's flying. He flies everywhere. And I tell you, you want me to blow up today? Hey, when you're up in Mosinee, keep an eye open for those Confederate flags up there, boys. Hey, you guys have a great day.
All right. Hey, Paul, be careful on those roads out there, man. Always appreciate it.
You know, I like Wisco Paul's analogy. Scott Walker, the chameleon, truly red, turning blue. But if he's a chameleon, Dom, I think it's most likely he turned bright green for money. Maybe a little off green for dark money. Folks, we are the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Got one more topic.
That's where that jet black hair comes from, all that dark money.
Got one more topic. Want to throw Brad Schimmel in the mix. He's part of this. He is the one suing, along with the state of Texas, to remove your pre-existing condition protections. And it flies in the face of wisdom, of empathy, of humanity, but it even flies in the face of good politics. Be it Vukmer, be it Schimmel, be it Walker, they're going against the electorate. They can see the polls. They know people care an awful lot about pre-existing conditions, but their policies do not match their rhetoric, and that's why you listen to the Devil's Advocates, because we call the SOBs out each and every day right here on Real Resistance Radio. One last segment for your phone calls, 844-967-2789.
When you're strange, when you're strange.
I'm using the talking points of the Democrats.
We're not just doing this for money. We're doing it for a load of money.
And they literally and figuratively get hooked. And once they get hooked, there's no going back.
Hi, Resistance Radio listeners. This is Kim Schrader, the president of the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association. We are the 4,600 educators who make Milwaukee's public education system possible. MTA members are the guardians of public education because every single day we are fighting to strengthen and protect public schools our students deserve. MTA educators are leading the fight in Milwaukee public schools for smaller class sizes, more recess, physical education, art, and music opportunities for every child in MPS. MTA educators are the champions for healthier school meals, positive discipline practices, equitable schools, and schools that partner with parents. MTA members are the guardians of public education, and we are proud to teach all children, regardless of their zip code. To learn more, follow us on Facebook at the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association.
I'm Andy Buck, field representative with Painters and Allied Trades of Wisconsin. It's an issue that brings constant challenges for building contractors. How to find qualified painters, glazers, and drywall finishers. IUPAT knows what you want. A professional job performed by skilled workers who care about safety, training, and finishing strong. Workers who are reliable and ready on demand. Let IUPAT provide the people power that you need. You'll feel confident the job is finished right. Connect at IUPATDC7.com and finish strong.
The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes, exclusively on Real Resistance Radio. Call in live at 844-967-2789 and give your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on local and national topics. Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m., it will not be what you expect to hear, but we will definitely give you what you need to know. That's The Forum, hosted by Sherwin Hughes on Real Resistance Radio. Always streaming live on realresistanceradio.com.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin Uprising. Dom and Crute are the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Last segment of the day. If you got something to say, now is your time. 844-967-2789.
Dominic, kicking ass every day around here, and Donald Trump apparently listening to the show today and tweeting, not at us specifically, but at the nation at large and the Russian bots and, the fake accounts that make up primarily his supporters. But here was the tweet from the president, hashtag not my president. All Republicans support people with pre-existing conditions, and if they don't, they will after I speak to them. I am in total support. Also, Democrats will destroy your Medicare, and I will keep it healthy and well. Well, I don't trust Trump any more than I trust Vukmer or Scott Walker, Dom. Apparently, Trump has seen the polling, although I didn't think he believed the polling. Donald Trump must realize that it is highly unpopular to take away people's protections for pre-existing conditions. And the polling says it's good politics to stand with the patients right here in Wisconsin. 2.4 million pre-existing condition patients, or voters as you might call them. But the Republicans, they're not really with us so much as they need to change their tune rapidly because it's election time. Just saying. Brad Schimmel, the hack attorney general of the state of Wisconsin, truly a partisan by any metric. UrbanMilwaukee.com's got a little story. Bruce Thompson, the data wonk. Let me see if I can start it off for us, Dom. A basic axiom of politics is that elected officials align their policies to the interest of their constituents. Let me say that again for Republicans. Right. They align their policies with the interest of their constituents.
Now, by constituents, you mean donors?
Depends on what you mean by constituents, Tom. It is not surprising, for example, that few officials in West Virginia or other coal mining states advocate for less coal burning. Yet a federal lawsuit that Wisconsin's Attorney General Brad Schimmel is pursuing violates this rule. Schimmel, joined by 18 other state attorneys general, I would say all Republicans, just for the sake of the audience, asked a federal court to allow insurers to deny insurance to people with pre-existing conditions or charge them more. This strikes me as both very bad politics and very bad policy. Prior to Obamacare, insurers in the individual health care market commonly used so-called medical underwriting to decide whether an applicant for medical insurance was a good risk. If not, the insurer might buy insurance outright, charge a higher fee, or offer a policy that excluded coverage of the applicant's pre-existing conditions.
Now, don't you love an insurance policy that doesn't cover the thing that you're probably most concerned about? Your pre-existing condition? It will cover you for everything except that pre-existing condition.
It's like my car insurance covering me for everything except crashes. An analysis from the Kaiser Family Foundation looks at medical underwriting in the individual insurance market prior to the ACA to assess what might happen if we were to return with the demise of the Obamacare requirements based on the pre-ACA market for individual coverage. From a review of several insurers' pre-Obamacare underwriting manuals, Kaiser lists 30 common medical conditions that often led to rejection of an applicant. Autism was on that list. In addition, taking particular medications could result in rejection. Finally, at least one insurer listed occupations, including firefighters and taxi drivers, considered too risky to insure. Kaiser also describes other strategies that insurers might offer instead of outright rejections. These included rate up, in which an applicant was offered a policy but at a higher premium or increased deductible. Another strategy would be to exclude a specified condition, body part, or system affected by the specified condition from the policy. The ACA's ban on these practices is enormously popular. For example, a recent Marquette University Law School poll included the following question. As you may know, the 2010 healthcare law prohibits health insurance companies from denying coverage because of a person's medical history or pre-existing conditions. How important is it to you that insurance companies continue to be required to cover pre-existing conditions? Very important, somewhat important, not too important, or not at all important. Well, Dom, the data wonk uses some wonky charts, but I'm just going to read from the paragraph. As remarkable as it is to see 94% of Democrats say that it is very important. It is even more stunning to see 67% of Republicans say so. There is overwhelming bipartisan support for the ACA's prohibition on the use of pre-existing conditions by insurers, Dom.
The popularity of this ban stands in sharp contrast to the continuing partisan divide over the ACA itself. As a number of observers have noted, Obamacare's parts are far more popular than Obamacare itself. Even among people saying that Obamacare should be repealed, 90% said that the ban on the use of pre-existing conditions was either very or somewhat important. Public support.
Now, hold on for a second. We've talked about this at other times, but you cannot force the insurance companies to cover people with a pre-existing condition, but not also mandate that others that might be healthier should join in the insurance pool. That's the problem we've got right now. That is how they are undermining the ACA currently, is because you're forcing the risk on the insurance company without forcing compliance on the individual.
Public support for the ban makes a pending federal lawsuit very strange. The case, Texas v. United States, brought by 19 states under the leadership of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and Wisconsin Attorney Brad Schimmel, to challenge the ACA prohibition on the use of pre-existing conditions by insurance companies. They asked the judge to declare that the ACA's guaranteed issue and community rating provisions violate the U.S. Constitution. Together, these provisions protect people with pre-existing medical conditions from discrimination by insurers. The guaranteed issue provision requires insurers to cover people regardless of pre-existing condition. The community rating provision requires insurers to charge the same price for those with and without pre-existing conditions, based both on the insurer's pre-ACA underwriting manuals and the nationwide health surveys. The Kaiser Family Foundation estimated each state's average percentage of the non-elderly population with a declinable pre-existing condition. The proportion varied, ranging from a low of 22% in Colorado and Minnesota to a high of 39% for West Virginia. One might expect that officials in states with the highest proportion of residents with pre-existing conditions would be the most eager to defend the ACA's ban on considering those conditions. If so, one would be wrong. In the 19 states joining Schimmel and Paxton to challenge the ban, an average 29% of the residents have a declinable pre-existing condition. For 16 states and the D.C. intervening to defend the ban, the average declinable rate, Crudy, 25%.
Yeah, there are, well, that's because Democrats tend to care about everybody, and Republicans, as long as they get theirs, they don't give a damn about yours. It's not sensible. It's not good politics, and it's inhumane. Ultimately, Dom, I mean, I know they've gotten a lot of political mileage out of opposition to ACA and the black president, but it's time to move beyond this. If you want me to let the scab of Act 10 sit and not pick at it, how about we just allow people with pre-existing conditions not to fear for what comes next because of your, opposition to the government? Then stop taking 30% of the state budget from the federal government. If you're not going to expand Medicaid, don't take the government health care yourself, Scott Walker. I want to thank our fine guest today, Matt Rothschild, Executive Director of the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign. He's Batman. Tomorrow on the Big Show, we got Phil Anderson previewing the gubernatorial debate he's been left out of. And coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, our buddy Ed Wall. Anything for you, Crudy Ed Wall, former Walker Cabinet Secretary. He'll be here to preview the debate. Please tune in. Thank you for listening.
You haven't got your health. You haven't got anything.
So you get nothing. You lose.
The American dream is.
All workers benefit from unions, as unions create the highest standard in wages, health and welfare, retirement security, and workplace protections. Hello, this is Tom Bennett, President of Teamsters General Local 200. Your voice is your strength. The ability to build a stronger and better tomorrow begins today. Teamster Local 200 represents workers in numerous industries, and our team is ready to sit down with you and your co-workers to build your unified team. Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us on Facebook or www.teamsterslocal200.com.
Bernie Sanders is having an early vote rally in Milwaukee, and Real Resistance Radio will bring it to you live. Tune in Monday morning, October 22nd, when the senator from Vermont takes the stage with Senator Tammy Baldwin, Congresswoman Gwen Moore, Tony Evers, Mandela Barnes, and Randy Bryce in the Wisconsin room at the UW-Milwaukee Student Union, 2200 East Kenwood Boulevard. Doors open at 8 a.m. Live radio broadcast starts at 9:30. After the rally, bring your photo ID and head over to the Peck School for an early vote. Mandatory listening from Real Resistance Radio. You are listening to Real Resistance Radio, WRRD 1510 AM Waukesha and WTTN 1580 AM Columbus. Always streaming at Real Resistance Radio.
More time to investigate heated squabble. I'm Barbara Cusack. President Trump said it certainly looks as though Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi is dead. The top U.S. diplomat Mike Pompeo advised Trump to give Saudi Arabia more time to investigate the journalist's disappearance after entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul 2 weeks